Are you really a babysitter?
I think you'll find I'm universally recognized as a mature and responsible adult.
He's cool. Isn't he cool? I'm the doctor and I'm all cool. Oops, I'm wearing sand shoes.
You told me you wiped out your own people. I never pictured you doing it, that's all.
Take a closer look.
You heard it up top. We're going to talk a very special Christmas episode on a very special Normies Like Us as we cover 2 Doctor Who episodes. Your hosts, the 14th Colin Doctor. Wibbly zibbly.
I'll be the mic man. We'll hear about that later.
Nice. Yeah, and this is, of course, the Cobter.
Hey. So, yeah, we out here. Happy holidays, everybody. And you're our resident hooligan, we would say.
Wow.
Absolutely. I'm a bit of a hooligan, mate.
Man, I got my sonic screwdriver and everything.
What?
2 pieces,
You
Not the size of it that counts, Mike.
It's a regular screwdriver, but it could be sonic if you want. It's not the size.
That's incredible, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish it lit up on the end.
I know. One day. Maybe I'll 3D print one for you if you behave.
Yeah, I would love that. Up top, we should say, let's say the episodes that we're going to be talking about in the era. So just to recap, because last year we did do an episode like this, which is why we're doing this episode. And we talked about 2 Christmas or holiday specials from the David Tennant 10th Doctor era. Mm-hmm. This year we'll be talking about 2 from the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith era. And we're going to be talking about A Christmas Carol and The Day of the Doctor. So spoilers for those episodes, obviously.
Right.
Probably for a lot of Doctor Who stuff, but yeah.
Oh, I'm excited to get back to it. So we have a holiday one and then the 50th anniversary kind of special shebang that they did.
And that was that came out that came out about like the end of November. And then they had another Christmas special that came out on Christmas, as is their tradition, which I declined to choose that one to talk about because it is more Christmassy, but it's also the series finale of the Matt Smith era. So it's the last Matt Smith episode, and as the finale, it's kind of wrapping up all of his plot lines, all of his loose threads from his 3 seasons. And I thought you guys would be totally confused about what's going on.
Very accessible for Mike and I, not non-Whovian fans.
Yeah,
that's right.
It gets very convoluted in this era, I will say, but I'll try my best to explain certain things that from the Day of the Doctor, which is the second one we'll talk about, that might be confusing and stuff like that. There's a lot of references that you guys might not even pick up on that I can explain. So.
No, I feel like still, while being an outsider, never been in the TARDIS, these still felt largely self-contained. I'm sure there's some stuff I missed, but they still kind of functioned all right on their own. So I think you did a good job of skipping like a season finale in this case.
Yeah, I think they're enjoyable on their own. I mean, the first one obviously is a sort of take on A Christmas Carol, the classic story. And the second one, like you said, it's the 50th anniversary special of all Doctor Who's. It was this big blowout that they did. I kind of call it the Avengers Endgame of Doctor Who episodes.
I wanted to talk about
Star Trek Generations of Doctor Who.
Yeah. But it's really, it's sort of the biggest and most, in terms of scope and that sort of thing, it's the biggest episode they've ever done, really. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk Doctor Who.
Yeah, again, not been in the TARDIS ever, not been a huge viewer of the show. I said I've only seen the one with the angels or whatever. It's like the only episode I ever saw.
Yes, the Weeping Angels. But you guys did like the episodes that we talked about last year with David Tennant, the 10th Doctor.
Yeah, and I like David Tennant a lot. We talked about that a lot on that episode, and I feel like I see it. I see the charm. I get why a lot of people are maybe ravenous about this, especially after going through this. So I'm starting to understand it. It's fitting together. How about you, Colin?
Maybe the opposite end, Mike, unfortunately. And to refresh my history again, for repeating what we said on that last year's episode, but basically, no, I never grew up with this. I was more of a Red Dwarf fan. We would watch that on BBC and tape it, and then it would always show you a trailer for Doctor Who. the old series, and then of course when the new one came out, I just remember how popular that was. I watched that first season with Christopher Eccleston on
Like
Netflix
the
pretty
ninth Doctor.
passively. I watched it with former host of this podcast, Joe, and then I was pretty much done forever, other than those 2 episodes Jacob showed us last year. And since then, I have had it on in the background sometimes, like,
Wow.
yeah. Again, that was last year, so I would almost use the excuse of COVID times, but just of having some show, playing or whatever. I used to work from home sometimes. I will walk by my TV and go, "Oh, this is a weird thing," and then just kind of keep walking. Like it wasn't something I was very actively watching.
Sure, sure. And for me,
Yes.
obviously, I watched it, when I was younger. Not a huge fan, not like a diehard fan or anything, but I did watch it when it was airing during the Eccleston and Tennant eras
Mm.
when I was in high school. And I sort of rediscovered it last year and sort of got back into it and decided to watch it all chronologically, which I have still not caught up to current day. I sort of fell off, but I'm sort
Mm.
of in the middle of the Peter Capaldi era now. So I got to pick that back up so we can talk about him next year, I guess.
Well, teased in this episode that we watched today. Very interesting.
That's
I
right.
was
And I'll
very
talk about
surprised
that
by
too. But just to give a brief refresher for any normies out there. So obviously, Doctor Who, I made the case last year that it's sort of the English Star Trek. Like what to America Star Trek is,
Hmm.
Doctor Who is that to England.
Yep.
The sci-fi show started in the 60s. It ran from like I think 63 to 89 was the original run. Got canceled. They brought it back with a TV movie in 96, and that's with Paul McGann, the Eighth Doctor. And then they formally brought it back as a show in 2005, and it's been airing ever since.
Gotcha. Do you think they got David Tennant to be the 10th Doctor because it's got a 10 in it?
Yeah, probably. But of course, the
Yes.
Doctor, the titular Doctor, is basically an immortal alien who is known as a Time Lord. Comes from the planet of Gallifrey, and
Boy, does he ever.
He does. He comes from the Time Lords. He's a time traveler, obviously, and if his current form takes basically lethal damage, he can regenerate into a new form, and that's sort of how they explain the changing of the actor in the plot of the show, because there's been obviously 15 doctors now. So yeah,
Wow.
And do they all
including
like kind of?
Yeah,
I was just say, do they have general like memory of the previous lived experiences, like a Curzon Dax sort of situation?
Yeah, as you kind of see when, and we'll talk about the Day of the Doctor in the
Right.
second episode, we're going to talk about which the big hook of it was that, we're bringing back David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. We're also introducing a new Doctor, the War Doctor, which I'll talk all about and everything. But essentially, yeah, he does retain his memories from previous personas. So yeah, it's just a way to write in the changing of the actor, like
Right, but he's kind of this
James Bond or
immortal
something. They never explain
being.
it, but yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
the best piece of writing ever created. I mean, I think that's such a genius idea.
Yeah, it was a good idea to do that. And obviously, the first Doctor they cast was a super old guy. He only lasted like a couple years. They had to recast him in the 60s. So they're like, oh, how are we going to, explain
Uh-oh.
this or whatever?
And
But there's been 15 Doctors now, like I said. The eighth Doctor was the TV movie in the 90s. The ninth Doctor was Christopher Eccleston. 10th was David Tennant. 11th, Matt Smith. Now we're up to 15. David Tennant technically is also the 14th Doctor because he came back.
oh,
That's
geez.
right.
For three specials last year, and then they transitioned to the 15th Doctor, the current Doctor, who's played by Ncuti Gatwa from the Barbie movie, of course, our favorite Ken, or one of the Kens.
Sure.
I always point out we had Jodie Whittaker, and she was in Broadchurch with David Tennant, which I think is a great show.
Yeah, she was also the thumbnail for me for this. I was very surprised that they would lead Jodie forward. I was like, that's an interesting choice.
That's because of the new deal that now Doctor Who airs on Disney Plus. From 2005 until 2023, in America, you would watch it on HBO Max. So they still have everything through. So Jodie Whittaker was the last Doctor of that era. They basically rebooted the episode numbers almost like a comic book line or something. Makes no sense. It's very confusing. But so the new Disney Doctor Who, starting with episode 1, is the 15th Doctor.
Gotcha.
And that airs on Disney Plus. But
Question for you, Jacob.
Yeah.
That's great, Mike.
I'm sorry.
Question for you, Jacob, as the Doctor Who fan here, before we really dive into it.
Yeah.
You said we talked about David Tennant last year. We're talking about Matt Smith this year. You just listed off a bunch of other Doctors. Is this your favorite era of the Doctor, the Matt Smith stuff, or what? Who is your favorite Doctor?
That's a great question. I might have mentioned it last year, but my all-time favorite Doctor has definitely got to be David Tennant, my guy, the 10th Doctor. I don't mind Matt Smith. Like, I like him enough. I don't hate him.
Don't mind him.
I was a lot. No, actually, when I was first watching the show, that's kind of what originally I was like, all right, I'm out on this show, because I just wasn't into the Matt Smith at the time when I was like 18 or whatever. And also I was like, I'm getting too old for this show anyway, basically when I was a teenager. But now I appreciate Matt Smith more, especially in light of maybe some other Doctors that aren't as good. Like, he kind of lives up higher in my estimation now than he did when he first aired. Yeah,
after seeing Morbius and then this, you're like, you know what? He's not terrible.
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, it's like, this is.
He had a hard year for us. We followed him doing nothing in a cave or in a castle, basically, for an entire year.
That's right.
It's been a hard year for Matt.
He's an actor I like that maybe doesn't always pick the right choices for roles. And I mentioned, I think last year, that he actually took the advice of Karen Gillan, who was his companion on the show in his first season, and was like, oh, should I do this Marvel role? And she was like, yeah, oh, Marvel's great. I had a great time working on Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like, okay, it's for this movie called Morbius. And so maybe his agent, did him bad there, but he
got tricked. It's a blame his agent. Yeah. He got.
He's a good actor. I like him.
Yeah. Well, I'm stoked to be, having a real who's who on this episode.
That's right.
The first, second, and third podster, I guess, are here. And
we're
I'm the war
for the first time.
You're the war podster with that.
You're the ones we try to forget. You had to do some bad stuff.
I guess Joe's the war podster.
True. Yeah. He's no longer.
Will return.
I can't wait to talk all about that too. But
yeah, let's kick off with a Christmas Carol.
First one, A Christmas Carol. That's right.
Put that vape away.
Doctor Who intro.
Yo, what if you just hit a sick vape rip on the sonic screwdriver?
It doesn't work on doors, but I can take this monster rip off of it and be like, oh, shit.
That would be amazing.
It's watermelon flavored.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we are not celebrating Christmas. We're celebrating Boxing Day, a very British holiday, because we're talking a very British
still celebrate
show.
Christmas.
No, they celebrate
say Happy
Old
Christmas.
Father Christmas Day. Old Saint
right?
Nicky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first we're talking A Christmas Carol, of course. This was the first Christmas special of the Matt Smith era, his first season, which was season 7 or season 5, I believe, of how they ordered. Again, it's super confusing because there's like 3 eras of Doctor Who now, because there's the old era from 63 to 89. There's the newer era from 2005 to 2023, and now the new era. So they're rebooting the order. But that's not important. What's important is A Christmas Carol, guest starring Michael Gambon. How do you say
we'll
it?
We'll say Gambon.
I think it's Gambledore. I think that's
Gambledore.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, are you surprised that both these episodes we talked about star an old, distinguished British actor in them?
I hadn't thought about that, but I guess it makes sense.
Scrolling through to this one, Jacob, and in my path of going down the episode list in Max, I saw one that starred Liam Cunningham. It looked as like a submarine captain. Talk about another old British actor. So I wasn't surprised at all. I literally just scrolled through. I'm like, oh, right. This is like royalty is like asking you to do this, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
like Shakespeare over there.
Every actor's got to do their turn on this and Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, I guess. The big 3. But yeah, so of course, the second Dumbledore, Michael Gambon, in this as Yeah, go ahead.
He's this kind of the Scrooge stand-in, and we're on a different planet, right? So we're kind of like in
Yeah,
another part of the galaxy, but we brought Christmas with us. Damn it! If we're gonna colonize the stars, Christmas is coming with.
that's right. This is sort of takes place in the future. Again, he's a time traveler, the Doctor. So sometimes he goes into the future where humanity has become a spacefaring civilization. Um, And oh, just to say, by the way, Doctor Who, obviously, uh, common mistake here. Doctor Who is not his name. His name is actually the Doctor. Well, actually, is a secret name that's part of a big mystery that we don't need to
Great.
get into. But you can just
Please.
call him the Doctor, but don't call him Doctor Who because that's a faux pas.
Doctor
Fair.
Who.
Right. I guess that's
Uh,
just the joke.
Doctor Who is actually a big mystery of the Matt Smith era. Is the question, which is the oldest question in the universe. What is it? And he's going to answer it or whatever. And then the question turns out to be, spoiler alert, Doctor Who.
Huh.
It's someone asking Doctor Who, and then the answer is his true name, which is a big mystery. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Well,
there you
to
go.
kick us off here, though, it seems like they really throw us into a Star Trek style scenario to open this episode. Like, oh, we're in a planetary orbital decay. We need a land emergency kind of thing.
That's right. So we open on our two companions actually, which is Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill as Amy
Hmm.
Pond and Rory, who just to give you some context, in the last episode previous to this one, got married. So
Oh,
they're newlyweds. That's why
that's
they're
what the honeymoon suite meant. Okay, I did
yeah.
not understand
Okay.
any of that. Sure.
Yeah, because basically, so Amy Pond is so when Matt Smith first becomes the Doctor, he meets her as a young girl, and then he leaves for a minute and then comes back like 20 years later or something because he accidentally got the time wrong. And so he basically promised to take her with him to go on adventures and then left and then came back and it had been like 20 years, right?
Right.
So
He's
she's now
grooming her. Got you.
Oh,
Interesting.
yeah.
yeah, but she's now a young woman and she's engaged to Rory, played by Arthur Darvill. You may know him from, of course, Legends of Tomorrow, another time traveling show. So there you go.
Why is Rory in a Roman gladiator outfit and she's in
So
like a police
Seems to be their
outfit?
yeah,
fetish.
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
those costumes are references to earlier episodes
I
when
figured
they
that's
wore
what was
those costumes.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, she
I
wore
like
that police uniform in the first episode that the Doctor meets her when she becomes a young woman. And at first, he thinks she's a police woman, but the twist is she's actually a kissogram, which I guess is a thing that you can
So,
pay someone to come to your house and like I don't know what
right, right,
all of
right.
it was, but
But
Well,
but
yeah,
it was definitely kink related then in that case.
yeah. For a
From the
yeah,
young woman
wedding.
who is groomed, what other future could she have?
Right.
Fascinating. I was excited about this. I like Karen Gillian, and
Hmm.
like you said, Jacob, I like Arthur
yes,
Darvill. Shout
yeah,
one out to the fucking death of the
Rip
CW
Hunter,
superhero universe. Well, rip that universe, and that now Superman and Lois is over and it's done. But I loved that
right,
period where not even just the superhero stuff, but when they would throw out like, what if we do uh Archie meets Twin Peaks and you get, the queerest show ever, Riverdale, and
right.
in
He
this
was on that
instance,
show.
no. I'm just saying
Uh,
that this weird period of CW where like, and then the other best example and my favorite one, Legends of Tomorrow, was clearly them going, what if we did like Doctor Who but for dumb people? Like, what if we did it for like dumb
yeah,
Americans?
and it stars all your
Mm.
favorite side characters from the
Yeah,
Arrowverse.
you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Um, yeah, but so basically, and this is funny too because he's also in that show with David Tennant and uh,
Broadchurch?
Jodie
That's
Whittaker,
right.
right?
Oh,
So that
Yeah.
show has a lot of Doctor Who actors for some reason. Again,
Hmm.
it's a small country, Britain, England, uh, but um, yeah. So you might be surprised to learn. So we open on Amy and Rory, the companions of Doctor Who,
Hmm.
not in this episode very much, which is kind
no,
of
I was very bummed out about that.
which is a thing they do sometimes with the Christmas specials where the companions just aren't in them that much for some reason. But basically, they're in a ship that's a spaceship that's crashing into a planet, and the Doctor has to come and try to stop that.
Well,
Right?
we get our Scrooge. He does the whole like if they're going to die, they better do it, decrease the surplus
Yes, the
population thing. He's
surplus
like, there's too many
population.
people on this planet. I control the atmosphere, and I'm not allowing the ship to land, even in an emergency. Just let them die. He's real.
Right.
They're hitting
So
it hard.
Please
Yeah.
stop.
Michael Gambon's character, Kazran Sardik.
And he hates the pores. Boy, let me tell you.
Yes,
They make that very
yes.
clear.
His father was a rich guy who sort of colonized this planet, this is a planet where we should say there's fog. There's a special kind of fog in the air, and there's fish that can fly in the air. So it's a planet where there's airfish, I guess.
Fish in the sky.
Yeah, and let me tell you, when we were
yeah.
talking our Christmas movie draft and stuff, and we were talking about adaptations of the Christmas Carol, I never would have estimated that what it was missing was a flying fish or a giant shark.
Or flying shark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
that's
what
the
Christmas
secret.
Carol really
So
needed.
Spaceships.
That's the thing is this is sort of loosely based on Christmas Carol. I emphasize loosely, but also
Yes.
it's because the Doctor is aware of the original story, A Christmas Carol, and gets the idea to do a Christmas Carol to this old rich guy.
Right.
But he's also, the Doctor, I should mention, has met Charles Dickens in a previous episode. So he actually knows Charles Dickens personally.
They like beheaded a bunch of zombies together.
Fought some ghosts
Right.
together.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a
so
common
that's good.
archetype for a Doctor Who episode. He goes back in
Mm-hmm.
the past a lot, meets historical figures. There's some kind of supernatural thing. Turns out to be actually an alien thing.
Right.
And they have to stop it. So yeah, he's
Right.
met Shakespeare. He's met Charles Dickens. He's met the Queen, multiple
Conan
queens of
Doyle.
England.
We'll see him do that a couple times.
Has he done a
Right.
Shakespeare like Star Trek does?
Yeah, well,
Or not
he met
Shakespeare, Sherlock Holmes, I mean.
Oh. Surely.
Well, I don't know, because Sherlock Holmes is a fictional character in the world of Doctor Who.
Well,
But
that's a Conan Doyle
come
mystery.
on. He goes, yes, I was going to say, he goes back and talks to Arthur Conan Doyle or something. I
Yeah,
guarantee
probably.
it.
He definitely fights witches with Shakespeare. He fights ghosts with Charles Dickens.
Awesome.
And of course, this era of Doctor Who, the showrunner is a guy named Stephen Moffat, who was a writer. So obviously in the David Tennant and the Christopher Eccleston era, you had Russell T Davies, showrunner. Stephen Moffat was a writer during that era. Also created a little show that you might have heard of called Sherlock.
Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
My next question was literally, which one of these guys is the Sherlock guy? Which was, I would say, the prestige version of this. Like, it was the BBC show that it seemed like must-watch TV, and then this was the fun, entertaining show, right? I would kind of
I mean, I think Sherlock kind of has a reputation where the season started to go down in quality.
Oh,
after the
absolutely.
first season.
Yes, it did not.
But it was billed as Cumberbatch.
There was a period where it was maybe one of the most popular shows because, of course, Jacob.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
We'll talk about it one more time. This is something we brought up before in our Halloween episodes and in our BBC first Doctor Who episode. But what is the fandom? Let's talk about
a
Tumblr
fandom
real quick.
called Super Wholock that are fans of Doctor Who, Sherlock, and Supernatural.
The three big ones, the three
big
kings,
ones
I would say.
Tumblr era, 2010s Tumblr people were very into those franchises. Would write fan fiction about the three of them meeting in different scenarios.
Oh yeah,
kissograms.
So
meeting is the kindest phrasing you could give what was probably written about the most.
30,000 words.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because Sherlock was actually airing during this era, so Stephen Moffat was show running both these shows simultaneously.
Yeah.
And took over from Russell T Davies, who's now actually back, of course. So Russell T Davies came back for the 14th and 15th Doctor, which is the return of David Tennant for those three specials, and is now show running the current Doctor. So there you go.
It's a messy universe.
A little bit.
You don't even know the half of it. I mean, because there's so much lore, and every era can retcon whatever they feel like and change the lore. So it's just constantly changing. It's very hard to keep straight. And also because it deals with time travel, it gets extra confusing. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and this era is particularly complicated. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and we were engaging with time travel in this episode too, to like he's going to go back and do a Christmas past, present, future kind of thing, you know.
But in terms of Doctor Who lore, this is very standalone as a Christmas special. And so basically, he runs into Kazran Sardik, who's a rich, miserly old guy who, hates poor people, doesn't, on this world, of course, people take out loans from him, and then he has to freeze one of their family members as collateral, basically.
Yes. That's his thing.
Yeah. And he controls a machine that controls the cloud belt on this planet that keeps the fish from coming down, because there's sharks, obviously, that could eat humans and things like that. So it all makes total perfect sense if you think about it. It does.
I mean, if you zoom, it's just the fences for the wolves. Like, it's very sci-fi of that, but it's like I own the fences and the town.
It's a very sci-fi Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
but
very silly.
So obviously, the doctor meets this guy and is like trying to convince him to use his machine so that the spaceship can land softly, which would cost this guy no money, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he just doesn't want to do it because he just doesn't care.
He's just a mean guy. But there's 4,000 people on the spaceship, so he's like literally says, then they'll just die. Like he doesn't care.
You do get that surplus population reference, which is very fun. And so the doctor's like, well, shit, I got to try to convince this guy to become a good person somehow.
Oh, I know what I could do.
Yeah.
I'll Christmas Carol him.
I'm a time traveler. Let me literally do a Christmas Carol on him. And
you know what? I'll film it and make him watch it.
Yeah. Basically change this guy's whole life to, go back when he's a kid and try to make him a good person. We kind of find out he has a bad relationship with his dad. He doesn't want to become his dad, but he basically does become his dad because his dad's an old, rich guy who hates people, and that's what he turns out to be. So,
so played by Michael
Doctor's got to go back. Yes, also.
Yes, with a different facial hair. Yeah.
Yes, he's got a beard. A
little bit
so
more. So
basically, the doctor goes back and also Mary Poppins this kid and becomes his supernatural babysitter.
Well,
yeah, there we go. Another classic.
Yeah.
Becomes his life partner in a way. Like, becomes almost like his imaginary friend of this guy who, I mean, he's not spending every moment with him. It's only, I would assume, the Christmas,
he comes back
they go for one Christmas adventure. Yeah.
He starts when he's a little kid. He's like, I'm your babysitter. I'm going to try to make you into a good person, basically. They have this whole adventure with a shark.
Mm-hmm. The screwdriver gets eaten, half of it,
Yeah, the sonic screwdriver, of course.
That's right.
And so they have to eventually. They want to save the shark because they don't want it to die. So they get the idea to freeze it in one of these things where his dad has been freezing people to keep them as collateral for loans, and that's where we meet this woman, right?
Yes.
And her name obviously is.
Yeah, I need to look it
Abigail.
up as well. Abigail, that's right.
Abigail, who we kind of met already in present day, but basically young Kazran meets Abigail, and she is a good singer. So she kind of gets out of her frozen pod and calms the shark down that's going to attack them by singing, which there's ice crystals in the air that it reverberates off and it calms the sharks and all that.
Right, of course, I forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very sci-fi, but. They have such a good time with this girl that they promise to come back every Christmas Eve as Kazran gets older and older. She gets frozen most of the year, but they wake her up every Christmas Eve and have a little Christmas Eve adventure.
And this is where you get my favorite gimmick, Jacob, which is every time she's unfrozen, she says, Doctor! 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 Yeah. And then once Kazran gets old enough, she says, Kazran first, in a very, seductive, they will, of course.
He gets older and turns,
becomes
more attractive as a young man. It's a real Anakin and Padme situation.
Yes. Well, we're getting a little bit of that,
certainly is. That is a wonderful way to put it. Here's what I wanted to ask you guys. I got a million things I want to talk about, so let's hold it on the plot right there for a second.
Yeah.
Would you date someone, I'm calling this brigadooning, who only appears once a year? Would you date the love of your life if you could only have one magical moment with them a year, one magical night?
Is it because you're dying slowly and you have to be locked in a frozen pod?
She's literally fridged. They're literally fridged for the rest of the year.
Yes.
If you asked Will Turner, he'd say absolutely.
Right. Yes. That's circumstance that works out for him. When you're on the other side, but here's the thing. I don't want you guys to think you're the one who's afflicted. Because when you're on that side, it's like, yes, I'll take whatever I can get. I'm just happy to be awake for the day, right? I'm
Right.
talking
Yeah.
you as the person who has to live your entire year going, oh shit, I finally get to see the love of my life for one day. Could you put up with that?
I don't think I could. I would want to spend more time doing activities together.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and which would be worse, that or like a 51st date situation?
I was going to say it reminds me a lot of 51st Dates, actually,
You forget
Jacob.
everything.
That's fascinating
every
that you
24
say
hours
that.
or something. Yeah.
Well, as Michael Gambon says in this, how would you choose what day? You know, if that
Right.
was a part of it too, I couldn't do it. It's a rough situation.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But
It's
sort of
dire.
these characters start to fall in love with each other.
Well, I guess
Catherine and Abigail.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we forgot to mention though, there's like a limited number of days that she has remaining every time they unfreeze her.
Yes.
So we have a
Yes.
ticking clock kind
There's
of
an
element.
ominous number on the front of her thing that keeps counting down. We don't know what exactly it means, but it starts at like 7. So it's like, oh, she doesn't have many numbers
You got
left.
7 years, basically, of these
Right.
events that they're going to have. And how does the Doctor not know this? Isn't he sort of... Isn't he... Here's the thing. Do I weigh too much into his omnipotence, Jacob? He certainly is a fallible character, correct?
Absolutely is a fallible character, and that's why a lot of stories involve him being too sure of himself being right and then second guessing himself later because he is capable of making mistakes, and he's not omnipotent in that he's just very smart, and he has a lot of technology and stuff that he can use to his advantage, but he's not.
He's a time
all-knowing.
lord. He's not a time god, which is sort of the window I unfortunately view him through a lot, I think.
Right, and that's a big part of the Doctor's character is that he goes through a lot of arcs of like, oh, I am basically a god, but then he's like, wait, I'm also fallible, and
oh no,
I'm more human than I actually am. He's not really human, but
Right. He possesses humanity, let's say.
Yes.
He's kind of got to do like a lot of failing upwards. He's like, oh, I got myself in a pickle, and then getting out
Well,
of
that's
it.
his thing is he presents himself almost as a childlike sort of persona where he's goofing and gaffing a lot, but underneath it, he's actually a very dark character.
Oh
who,
yeah,
is
true.
Conflicted a lot.
Well,
and,
Well, let's talk about that character a little bit, because for Mike and I seeing this new iteration, we weighed in on kind of a little bit of your opinion on Matt Smith, Jacob, but I really want to hear more of it. But Mike, what did you think of this portrayal of the Doctor, seeing it for the first time?
And compared to the David Tennant era, which we saw last year.
Right. There's a little bit of similarity with the fast talking kind of like aloofness,
Very adventure oriented. Yeah, I feel
Yeah. And I think he does a good job of like appearing intelligent yet aloof. And it's giving me like Newt Scamander vibes, kind of. Like it's an archetype, this Manny Pixick dream man that they love in England.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I don't love that comparison, but I see what you're saying.
Right.
And that's sort of his thing, is that he in any room that he walks in, he not only is probably the smartest person in the room, but also very much thinks of himself as the smartest person in the room. So he's always feels like he's in control of the situation, even when he's sort of pretending not to.
Right. Like he's like, oh, there's no such thing as an isolinear control system. He's like, oh, I guess there is an isolinear control system.
And he does have the habit of like failing upwards, like you said, where sometimes things just sort of work out for him. And so he's kind of always improvising until the last second, but they always just sort of tend to work out for him. I will say, like, this version compared to the David Tennant version, pretty similar in terms of what we've seen since then, where they try to go different directions with the character. This one, he's a little more childlike in this one. He's Matt Smith was also the youngest actor ever to play the Doctor when he was first cast. I think he was like 25. So he's a little younger than David Tennant. David Tennant was always more, maybe in more command. But again, Matt Smith, he's sort of in command of the situation, but pretending not to be a lot of the time.
And to harp on the history just one more time, to come through this rebooted era of Doctor Who, where you literally have Christopher Eccleston cast, and he doesn't like it and does not want to come back, right? And so people kind of on him are like, oh, that's interesting. David Tennant is maybe, arguably, you would know this more as a super fan, but again, the most beloved portrayal of the Doctor who's ever done it, maybe, right?
I would say, certainly in the modern era, because so of the old era, the fourth Doctor is kind of considered the most iconic. He's the one with the long scarf and the coat and everything. He's kind of the iconic old version of the Doctor. So he's
like
sort of
Captain
they
Kirk.
do like every year
We
they'll
will
do
see
like
that scar.
popularity lists of like all the Doctor iterations, like in Doctor Who magazine or whatever. And I think a couple times the fourth Doctor is one, but generally
people who
10th
can
Doctor is
vote
very
in that, the 80-year-olds who remember watching that show,
I
will be
remember.
gone soon. So I'm
Right.
not positive
Yeah.
that opinion does matter account.
It's sort of like it's like a Shatner versus Picard, like who's really better.
Well, but to frame that, that's a very interesting comparison you're making, is to say that those two truly could not be more out of their way to be as different as possible from each other. Whereas with Matt Smith, you have, like Mike said, the same quick talking, go get 'em attitude. They're both wearing suits, whereas Christopher Eccleston, wore something, a black trench coat,
Black
with
leather
like a
jacket.
t-shirt. Like that's couldn't be, further away. You just talked about the iconic scarf. There are changes you can do. This is a color palette swap essentially with a bow tie.
The personas are pretty similar, but they do have subtle differences, I would say. But certainly after Matt Smith, there would be Peter Capaldi, an older actor, then Jodie Whittaker, a woman, obviously, and then Judy Gatwa, a person of color. So they've gone away from the, sort of foppy white boy, which we got enough of. Although I like those eras, so
I'm gonna stick with Manic Pixie Dream Doctor. Archetype. Like they're doing it back to back. It worked with
I would say
Tennant. They're like, let's kind of stick to it within the
Mike,
line.
that's kind of my argument, is them being like, if it's the most popular thing of all time, why would we take such a big swing? Get the next handsome British white boy.
Yes, absolutely. I think they didn't want to mess with the formula too much after Tennant. After this era again, they are like, all right, what can we do that's different now? But Matt Smith, I think, is a Doctor that's looked back at pretty fondly by most of the fans, I would think. So I think his era was successful. And the storytelling does change a lot with the writing and stuff, and like the way they do overarching plot lines and stuff in his seasons. So I will say that. As well as the budget. The budget gets a little higher in his era. The David Tennant era was very low budget, but I kind of like that. That's part of the charm to me, is the low budgetness of it all.
Fair.
Yeah, but it's a personal taste thing.
And there's money in this. There's the main set where Curzon Dax, I can't remember the guy's name, but the main set, like his study is cool. We get the big fridge room with CG sharks, like the Star Trek ship in the sky. There's some stuff going on.
Certainly some questionable. The shark and stuff maybe doesn't look great, but for like British TV in the 2000s, early 2010s.
That whole street set in the town, it's like not a small set by any means. It's got a lot of characters.
Yeah. There's always great makeup in this show. It's...
Yeah, wardrobe. It's cool.
Charming.
Yeah. And this is a very charming story. So we have young Kazran falling in love with this girl from the pod, Abigail.
Are you an angel? I think he says the first time he sees her.
Are you an angel?
Okay.
And
when you say girl from the pod, you mean the pod races.
Oh, dude, nice.
That's right.
Wow.
And they do change actors, of course, a lot like Anakin, where that once he gets old,
you have to make it feel okay. It'll never be okay on paper, but you have to trick your brain into thinking it's okay.
Right. Yeah. My Annie, you've grown.
Yes, exactly.
So be more beautiful.
Exactly that. Yeah. And so one Christmas they come to her and she says, "Okay, can I pick the place we go this time?" Because they kind of go the typical Doctor Who stuff. He takes them in the future, he takes them in the past, he takes them to different things.
Yeah.
To meet Marilyn Monroe or whatever. This time she's like, "Can I visit my family who lives on this planet, because I haven't seen them because I've been stuck in this pod the whole time." And they go there. They have a nice little Christmas dinner. And Kazran is starting to think, wait, maybe I should be a good person.
He's getting a taste of what the common folk, the camaraderie and the Christmas spirit. Oh, this is what I've been missing, maybe. Plus, this lady's really attractive.
Yeah. I think this is the stuff where Matt Smith is working for me the most, when he's playing the card trick to what's essentially the Tiny Tim character. and the kid keeps saying it's wrong, and he kind of gets a sour face saying, well, no, you must have it wrong because I'm the doctor. Like that is hitting for me as a personality, Jacob, where you're talking
Yeah.
about like that fun arrogance that he's kind of like suavely playing into. Because he is, like you keep saying, he's kind of like the Han Solo meets Luke, or the Han Solo meets
Jar Jar.
Obi-Wan. I don't know. Yeah, like since
Yeah.
he's so old and wise, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. But he's a great character.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
We're just going through his life, just trying to give him experiences. They end up like getting married at one point.
Yes.
Right? Yep.
Do they?
Oh yeah, remember they do a lot of kissing, and then
Yeah.
the doctor's like, does this happen often? Like, yeah, actually.
That's the next episode.
Oh, you're right. I got that backwards. I'm sorry. Timey-wimey.
I think she intends to kiss me, sir, is what he says. And
what should I do? I don't know how to kiss a girl.
I hope so. Yeah.
That's
he asks the doctor, do you know how to talk to women? And the doctor's basically like, no, I don't. I'm like an autistic alien.
Yeah, basically.
Which is kind of part of the doctor too. He doesn't really do romance that much, but sometimes they do write him into romantic situations. And there's a lot of they, won't they? They never really do with like certain companions that are closer than others.
Kind of why I was very surprised when you said Karen Gillan had gotten married, because isn't his grift always to pick up some fine young thing and travel into outer space with her and be like, let me show you the world?
So that's part of her character too, because he meets her when she's like 11, comes back, like leaves for like 20 years, comes back. She's already in a relationship with Arthur Darvill at that point, but she's also in love with the idea of the doctor, basically. And the doctor has to be like, I don't do romances with humans, basically, and try to like turn her down.
But he can't, because he loves her.
So the doctor sees the pod
smokingest
situation.
redhead anybody's ever seen. Yeah.
Right.
Well, he does end up getting married to someone named River Song, who is another time traveler who's essentially going backwards in time with the doctor. His first meeting with her is her last meeting of him, and they go backwards like that. So they sort of have this doomed relationship. And then, spoiler alert, it turns out, spoiler alert for all the Matt Smith era, but I'll just tell you guys, River Song, this reoccurring character, is actually Amy Pond's daughter through a lot of convoluted plot stuff.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Amy Pond is Karen Gillan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So get it, Amy Pond, River Song. Her name is like badly mistranslated by aliens from Amy Pond to River Song. Anyway,
I don't get that.
Pond, River.
I get it. That's very silly.
It makes a lot of sense if you watch the whole show, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It is a credit to this universe that most people who either are companions or star as Doctor Who go on to actually have a very good career. Who plays River Song, Jacob? Is it somebody I would know?
Oh, I don't remember her name. But this is sort of a reoccurring character because they keep meeting at different points in time, but they're essentially living their experiences backwards.
Right.
And so she first meets him when he's David Tennant, and that's his first meeting, but her last. And then she dies in that episode. And then she ends up last meeting him when he's Peter Capaldi. So she actually met him as 3 different doctors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm seeing Alex Kingston. I'm not familiar with
any
of her work.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but you got to watch more of the show to really get into all that stuff.
Oh, we'll answer that question if we're going to do that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, about 2 years from now.
Yeah.
No, it does get very convoluted, like I said, in this era, but in an interesting way. But I mean, there's a lot of setup for different mysteries and things that the payoff you might work or might not work for you.
But due to the timey-wimey nature, Doctor Who sees this pod and he's like, I know how to do this. We'll just pop out a time and then you'll get old enough and then you can smooch this lady eventually. All right, we'll do it. We'll do some time shenanigans.
Right. So they keep coming back every Christmas Eve, but on a certain Christmas Eve, she tells him the secret, which is that she's actually dying and she only had 7 days to live when they first met, and now it's down to 1. So she can't come out of the pod anymore because the next time she does will be like her last day, basically.
Yep. And so she spends the remainder of Michael Gambon's life until he becomes an old man in the pod because he can never decide what that last day would be.
And at the end of this night, he kind of hides it from the doctor and says, "Oh, I'm getting too old to be doing this anymore. I've got to focus on my work with my father, who's training me to take over for the company and all this stuff." And so the doctor's like,
training me to use the machine that I go like this and make the like atmosphere spin around.
Yeah. So the doctor at this point is like, well, maybe I fucked up and didn't change this guy as much as I wanted to. Because also, like you said, he's sort of filming this all, and Michael Gambon as the old man is like is getting new memories in real time.
Right. Yes. Oh, yes, I remember.
That didn't happen, and yet it did. Yeah.
Say no. What do you? I know, Doctor. There's a lot of like that sort of film.
Predictive.
He's going back. He's looking at old pictures and stuff, and he's like, "Wait, I'm in love with this girl," and he's literally becoming a better person because of the doctor's influence. Kind of.
You're being gaslit.
Basically, yeah.
He does at one point like confront the doctor. He's like, "Hey, you're like changing my whole personality and sense of self
for your own means." Yeah.
So there's no, you know how there's the, what do you guys call it? The temporal directive.
Temporal Cold War or the Prime Directive.
The temporal Prime Directive. Yeah.
Yeah. There's none of that. He's got no rules. He's got to follow.
He does have some rules. Some events are time locked for some reason. So we can't change them, and he tries not to interfere with the past as much as possible. He also sort of has a rule against meeting your former self or your future self, which he also obviously breaks
because
all the time.
We wouldn't be able to film together because most of them are dead.
Right.
Yeah.
What's that, the doctor? What do you mean?
But obviously, as a time traveler, I mean, he does have the ability to rewrite time if he thinks that's what's best. And like, he goes around and tries to save people, right? That's his job, is to like try to save people throughout time.
It does seem like an affront, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, again, he sort of comes to think of himself as a god because he has this power. And he sort of has an existential crisis about it and stuff, and that's a big part of it. Yeah.
This circumstance, though, he definitely made the choice by himself that the goods of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and said, "I am changing your entire history."
Yeah, he doesn't care about this old man. Like, he's trying to save 4,000 people, right?
Right.
You're a dick. So, I'm gonna go back to time and mess with you. It's like, oh no.
Well, you know,
there's me. I would be so scared.
Well, and maybe you should be. I mean, like, there's some people in the real world I wish we could do a Christmas Carol to.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Like, we could do this to...
But you'd get loopered, Mike. Like, your fingers would start disappearing.
Yeah, but if you want 4,000 people to die and you hate children and people with less fortune
but that's why he's the doctor.
You deserve to get loopered.
He understands time better than anyone else, or he thinks he does.
It's terrifying as the prospect of if someone was loopering you. Yeah.
Like, yes, I don't want to be loopered.
And he's projecting it onto the wall in front of you, showing him doing
it. No, stop. Leave him alone. He's just a little child me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's pretty brilliant if you think about it.
I don't know.
We could do this to Elon Musk and make the world a better place.
Right.
Yeah. We pray every way.
We need more Christmas caroling.
Yeah.
But
I was visited by 3 ghosts last night. I'm actually selling the Twitter shares.
I'm not going to run Doge. I'm going to donate all of my billions of dollars to the public sector. We're going to fix the roads.
Right. Come on, Grimes.
Not anymore. He's got to open Grimes Pod one more time.
Grimes, go back in the pod.
I chose this perfect day for you, Grimes.
Yeah.
Oh, can I make you music? No, you have to hang out with me.
No, I've got everything planned. You can't do anything you want to do.
We're going to the moon in my rocket. Oh man. Oh man.
But
beautiful.
This does have sort of a similarity with the Christmas Carol, the original, because sort of the whole crux of the Christmas Carol is that he does fall in love, Ebenezer Scrooge, right?
Yes,
and then
of course lose her,
breaks up with her over some
wanting to do business instead
on his work, right?
Yeah, and of course he does directly say in basically all 3 iterations, he says, "I'm the ghost of Christmas past." Karen Gillian says, "I'm the ghost of Christmas present."
Right.
And do we get a future?
Well, then I guess the future is he brings young Kazran to meet his older self.
That's right.
Like, oh no, like, you suck.
This is what you turn into,
shithead.
A lonely old
just like
man.
Dad. Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And we
his
learned
dad
that
who loved Christmas but was
Yeah.
also like a piece of shit, abusive
Yeah.
dad.
Well, no, we
Yeah.
keep getting the flashback. His dad, struck him as a child because he wasn't agreeing on business, and he almost does that to
Right.
his younger self, and that's kind of, I think, the moment when
Yeah,
he's
in the
like, "Oh
beginning, he
shit."
almost
You know what?
up
I
the
apologize,
kid.
Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for reminding me of that. That is another line that I super want to shout out of when the doctor says, "You're asking yourself if you're better than him, and you should know you are. You didn't hit the kid." That
Yeah.
that
That's right.
was
That's what
wild.
sparks his sort of curiosity into
Yes.
wanting to be involved in the situation. Because at first he sort of writes him off. He's like, "Well, I'm never gonna change this guy's mind." But he's like, "You
Oh,
didn't hit the kid.
He
you're
didn't
Why
hit
did
the
so
you-"
child.
important. He's basically like
Yeah.
making fun of him for thinking he's an important guy, and then he's like, "Ooh, you are interesting to me." Yes.
You're
Yeah, so
halfway out of the
it's
dark, right?
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God, that's good too. Jesus Christ. Those
Okay,
are
Yeah, so
good
okay.
some good writing here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I think that's really powerful, like literally bringing the child version of him face to face with the adult version. Like that's pretty interesting. It's an interesting angle to do the Christmas future kind of thing.
Yeah. And he sort of shows up to old Casner and he's like, "I'm going to show you your future now." And he's like, "All right, what is it? I'm going to die and stuff." And he's like, "No, I'm literally showing you your past
Yeah.
self, your future."
Yes. No, your future is being shown.
You are the
Yeah.
future being shown to
I'm
you as a
doing
kid.
wordplay here. Yes. You're like,
Yes,
oh.
yes. But
So
yeah,
then what happens?
that's when he has a change of heart, and I think
Yeah.
we
They
bring
go
open the
sledding.
cloud
What
net.
do they do? Yeah.
Well,
Yes. He saves all the people.
but then
Yeah,
isn't there
there's
like
some
a
singing
malfunction?
involved.
Yeah, then the fish are all coming down, and it's like, oh no. And then we need
Yeah,
someone
and
who
then so
can
we
get the right frequency, and it ties
Oh,
into
know
her
this lady can
particular
do it.
singing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the whole thing is he didn't know when is the right day to spend with someone on their last day, basically. And then it's Christmas Day, and she's like, "You know what? This is perfect. We spent so many Christmas Eves together. It's time we have Christmas Day."
And
And
she
they save
sings,
everybody. Yeah.
they save everybody, and then they have Christmas.
yeah, they ride on. I'm sorry, it wasn't a sled. It was the sleigh that they basically went on for one of their first
They
dates.
harness a shark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
fly
they
around in the sky.
they
Yeah,
harness
yeah.
the shark and go like goodbye. And
Yes.
it ends like basically being so silly. And Karen Gillan would be like, "I'm gonna go get me some more of that men meat."
Right.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, again, these companions are not in it very much, but they did
Yeah.
just get married. They're on their honeymoon. They're wearing outfits that are references to previous episodes.
Right.
So we don't see that much, unfortunately, of the Karen Gillan era.
Mm-mm.
And we'll get another companion in the next episode.
Very big
Yeah.
part of the special, I would argue.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
for that one. But is there anything else we want to talk about for A Christmas Carol?
It was cute. I liked all the effects. Michael Gambon's a great actor. I'll quote Jacob, our early Harry Potter episodes, which again we used to do during the holiday season when we would do our long form during the Christmas months, where you said in that watch along of doing all those films that you had really appreciated the first Richard Harris actor, the Dumbledore actor, and
in the first two, but he was so
never
old
gave
by that
yes, but in that you never gave Michael Gambon a chance, and that you really found a new love for his performance as Dumbledore in particular. He's a great actor. We love him on this podcast.
Sadly, passed away last year, I think.
Yeah,
that's another sad thing is that we're talking about two great actors in these episodes as guest stars, Michael Gambon and John Hurt. In the next one, both have sadly passed away now. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, this didn't seem that long ago, but I mean, they were old even in these episodes, so I guess it makes sense. But yeah, and Richard Harris, he was a great Dumbledore, but I never appreciated Michael Gambon, but I think he did do a pretty good job.
He's so playful.
Yeah.
He's such a menace in those movies.
Where did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
He said softly, yeah.
I have one question for you, Doctor Who. Why did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Why did you put yourself in my past and change my entire personality?
Yeah. But yeah, everyone sort of lives happily ever after. I like the art design of like this world too. It's sort of like almost steampunk where they're like have like goggles because of the fog and stuff. It's like
the guy who's like the Bob Cratchit is like, "Bless you, sir," and he is wearing like a silly top hat and of course like the tailored old timey British suit. But like you're saying, he has these like buttoned, accented, like fastened, hard metal things, and as you're saying, goggles as well.
Yeah.
Like there is an attempt at something original here.
Yeah, the steampunk Charles Dickens world.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I think this one had a great message. It is a little more kid oriented, I would say, but I think it's a great message for kids. And it's just a very uplifting, yeah, and it's very Christmassy, which I like because that's something Stephen Moffat said he really wanted his Christmas specials to really have that Christmassy feel, because some of the David Tennant ones, they didn't always have that much to do with the holiday season, right? So
The Christmas tree wasn't attacking anybody, so I take points off for that. But
yeah,
the shark saves it for me. The Christmas shark.
right.
Yep. I think it's fun. Yeah, and I think it has a good
Yeah.
message. Like, he just wanted to study fish, and his dad said, "Fuck fish. They're stupid."
Yeah.
But it's like
no business.
We're going to invent a
business.
machine that allows us to make money off of the fish in the sky. Yeah.
because I
That's,
can.
capitalism.
Let me
Very
tell you the family
anti-capitalist
business.
message,
We
right?
of course harness the fish in the sky. I'm like, all right,
He
Dad,
really-
you got it.
Carpe the diem on that one. But if the message is the actions you take in your everyday life directly affect who you become in the future, like, that's cool, that's good, and yeah, it's very Christmassy, a lot more Christmassy than some of the other two. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
fun.
Since we won't be discussing another Christmas episode, Jacob, will you tell us what is your favorite of the actual Christmas Doctor Who specials? Is it
It might be
one?
this one as
Really?
far as the ones that I've seen. Yeah, this one's really, really strong, I think. And they're not all, there's sometimes hit or miss where some of them just didn't work for me, but this one I really like. And
I
even
remember watching half of one with my brother one time where I think Nick Frost was Santa. Was that maybe
yeah,
the
so
Peter
that's a
Capaldi
Peter
one?
Capaldi one. So maybe we'll talk
Mm.
about that next year.
All right.
And that's he has to team up with Santa to stop some bad things.
Classic, dude. All right.
But it's
Yep.
really aliens. Let me
Yeah.
let me guess the twist based on how you set up every one of these episodes. But whatever it is, it's really
it's a
aliens.
reoccurring formula. Yeah, it's
Yep. Or
some
ghost.
supernatural thing. Oh, it's actually an alien supernatural thing.
Mm.
That
A
explains
blip
it.
blorp. Yes.
It was a blip blorb, not a
Yeah.
ghost.
Well, we're gonna get plenty of coverage of blip blorp maybe on the next one if we're
That's
good
right.
on the Christmas
That
Carol.
was a Christmas Carol that aired December 25th, 2010, 14
All
years
right.
ago.
Wow.
All right. Well, all hail to the Christmas shark, my favorite
right.
patron of the holiday now. Yeah. I guess it's that, that was Christmas Day, but now it's what, on to the day of the Doctor?
The
Right
Day
after
of
this?
the
Wow.
Doctor.
Blimey, Mike.
Blimey, mate. Oh, I'm
Boy.
in London.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we're using our sonic screwdrivers. We're talking Doctor Who, the holiday special. We just talked about the Christmas Carol. Now we're going to talk about the 50th anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor. Jacob is taking off the little fez he has on his head and
Mhm.
putting it into some sort
Bow
of
ties are
mohawk
cool.
with your hair. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So this is the big 50th anniversary special. And again, they really wanted to go all out with this one. So what did they do? They brought back the 10th Doctor, David Tennant.
We got to give the people what they want.
Yeah.
David, come on. They called him up. He said,
Please.
"Oh, I'll do it." He has a very Scottish accent in real life, not a
Here's the
Right.
thing.
British accent.
Bro.
I'm also
bitch.
Scrooge McDuck, and I want you to pay me like Scrooge McDuck. Give me all the money
Right.
in the world, motherfuckers.
And of course, we have the new character of the War Doctor, played by John Hurt.
Mhm.
Now, the story behind this, Colin, you might have hinted at it a little bit, but our first modern Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, the 9th Doctor, the original plan for this episode was to have him portray to be the War Doctor, because essentially the way it works is that so this is all about the Time War, which was the Great War fought between the Time Lords and the Daleks. The Daleks are basically the biggest arch nemesis of the Doctor.
So threatening.
They're
Visually,
basically they are actually like squiddy tentacle aliens that live inside these robot bodies, so they can move
Well,
around and stuff.
Okay.
They have, be honest, they have big Oscar the Grouch energy. They're little puppets that live in a trash can.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, that's because how they were first designed, like in the 60s.
Traditional. Yeah. Like, you gotta. Yeah.
And they've kept the design pretty
Plunger. Yeah.
pretty similar to how they were in the 60s, which is nice, a nice touch. But they do look a little funny because
It's for the fans.
R2D2s that roll around.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But the number one threat in the galaxy, it's a little funny on its face.
Well,
but
Who's
they're
the
pretty
Mike?
dangerous.
Who's the little Ninja Turtles? Kang or Krang? What was his
Krang.
name?
Krang.
They are all
they're
named
very
Krang.
They're very
They have some
coded.
big Krang energy.
Sometimes you do
Maybe
see,
Krang has
like,
big Dalek energy.
sometimes they
Yeah.
get exposed by their shell breaking or something, and you see the alien side. They're very Krang coded.
Maybe they are Krang, yeah.
And let me
Okay.
tell you, they are pretty threatening because they're actually basically space Nazis.
Oh
They
no.
want to eradicate everything in the universe that's not them because they're the only pure beings. So
Dang.
they're little squid.
Squid
I could
supremacists?
walk.
Right. You have a trash can.
Yeah, you use the trash can. I can move.
We
So
have
I don't
Time
want to hear what
Lords.
you are.
Yeah.
I'm
And
great.
they feel no other emotions but hate. That's the only one they can
Oh.
feel. So they're just a very evil species. And their
Nice.
famous catchphrase, exterminate. They say
That's
that a
right.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Exterminate.
Jacob, what is the do you remember the Community parody?
No.
Dr. Space
Dr.
Time.
Space Time,
Is that what
yeah.
it's called? But what do you remember particularly? It's the Blowgons.
The blowguns. Yeah.
Blowguns. Yeah.
They go
Yeah.
like eliminate.
I'll use a British kind of sounding word that they're kind of frumpy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But-
Again, they roll around in these robot bodies. Yeah, they're
But I
not
get it. It's
threatening
traditional,
looking, but yeah, it's there's a lot of stories involving them in Doctor Who, and they keep coming back. And he's like, "Man, I thought I killed all of you, but they keep coming back."
Well, and this is kind of that scenario.
At a
Like,
certain point, he's just like,
old
"Man,
yeah.
fuck these Daleks." So yeah, the Time War is a big galaxy-wide or universe-wide war that was fought between the Time Lords and the Daleks. And this happened between the 8th and 9th Doctors, so between the 96 TV movie and the 2005 rebooted show. So it's a big part of this new show, right?
The one that William Hurt is turning into at the end, that is Christopher Eccleston.
Yes, exactly. So
okay.
So they wanted it to be Christopher Eccleston in this show because that would make sense timeline-wise that he was the Doctor when this went down.
Right.
Unfortunately, like you mentioned, Christopher Eccleston had a terrible experience working on Doctor Who. Hates Russell T Davies and hates the writers and producer of the show to this day. So him coming back was just not on the table, was not an option, unfortunately. And it sounds like he did have some pretty valid reasons to why he didn't like it. But even like last year, I think they asked him, like, would you ever come back to Doctor? And he's done audio. There's a lot of Doctor Who audiobook stuff, and actors come back and voice their roles in these audiobooks, and he's done that, but he's never returned to TV live action. He said, well, I'll tell you what you do. You fire Russell T Davies, fire this other writer, fire this other person, then I'll come back. Until then, no chance.
Wow.
So, and again, Russell T Davies is the current showrunner once again. So they did not get along. And so
Ergo,
unfortunately,
John Hurt.
Yeah. So they decided to write a new character, the War Doctor, who's a new iteration of the Doctor between the 8th and 9th Doctors that they invented for this because what he had to do was so traumatic that the other Doctors just don't even acknowledge him as a number in their iterations. They try to forget about him. Basically as PTSD from what he had to do as the War Doctor.
Right. And basically in this timeline, he basically it's like uses a nuke, the super space nuke that wipes out.
Yeah, he commits
both
genocide,
sides.
right? Because the time war has gone on so long, and essentially these two sides are just going to destroy themselves and the whole universe with it. So in order to stop that, he decides, you know what? I'm doing the nuclear option. I'm going to blow everything up and kill all the Time Lords and all the Daleks to end this war. And again, because he sees himself as a god, he's like, I'm the only one who can make this decision, and it weighs on me a lot, and I have to, deal with that. But it's what I got to do. So,
and he kind of takes a stand, says no more. That's kind of something we're going to be critical to this.
A very big purveying saying through this whole episode. But Jacob, will you conceptualize something for me?
Yeah.
Time war. This is a war throughout all of time. This is a war that is like off time. This is in the future. When does he actually occur into parallel of me or
It's a little vague. Yeah, it's a little vague. Again, it's sort of like in Star Wars when they mention the Clone Wars, like in the original movies, and people were like, "Oh, what's the Clone Wars? Like, what? That must have been crazy." And then when they actually show the Clone Wars, they're not as exciting as you first thought they were going to be. That's kind of how it is with the Time War. But basically, it's a vague thing in his past, and it's a big part of the Eccleston season where he's like dealing with the trauma of having to do that, and it's been a reoccurring thing throughout the show. But he's now dealing with it directly. Yeah.
But so you kind of gave us a hint of placement of between where the doctors are dealing with it. But is it truly like, to steal the phrasing, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, or this is occurring post the nice little doctor with the scarf? He's like, "Excuse me, I actually have to go home and commit genocide with my entire race and all the villains," or is it the thing that retroactively defines all of them?
Well, it's between the 8th and 9th Doctor, so it's really.
Okay.
Like he turns directly into Christopher Eccleston, so it happens right before that season, basically.
So we're using laser phones or whatever, and he's doing a space war.
Yeah. But also the Matt Smith Doctor is 400 years older than the War Doctor, so But it's confusing because it's time travel.
But there were, in the course of, let's say, the old black and white show, you could bump into somebody else who was a Gallifreyan or whatever, who also goes by a title. They all go by titles, the Time Lords.
Some of them do. Yeah, some of them don't. There's the Master, who's like his nemesis, who's also a Time Lord.
And also, he's from Gallifrey.
Yes.
If you're a Time Lord, you are from Gallifrey. It's not just a title I can get for traveling through time.
It seems that way. Yes, it seems that way.
This is
all stuff. This is all stuff that was written in the '60s, and then then a bunch of writers had to go in and retcon certain things. Be like, well, why are they called Time Lords? Blah blah blah. The Master is kind of like the Joker to Doctor's Batman in a way, where he's the evil Doctor essentially, and he regenerates a lot and takes on new forms, aka different actors.
I like watching just the specials.
Yeah, no, it's a great show.
This one especially though, Mike, because this is where I was disagreeing with when you say they kind of feel like standalones you could watch. This one, I was like, the lines that David Tennant has to say, where he says, don't you know, I'm the Doctor from Gallifrey, from the Bliblorp constellation, and it's always existed, and it's always like he's like setting up like all this stuff where I'm like, okay, yes, you got it, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the government organizations, the prime minister, whoever. There's a lot happening. Yeah,
I can try to explain some of that.
They are. They study us. They're the X-Files.
I was wondering your guys' opinion on this, so we'll talk about it. But because coming at it from a no context perspective, what it's like. Because again, for me, I said this is my favorite episode of all of Doctor Who.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, it's the Avengers Endgame of Doctor Who, right? Because it even has a threat of wiping out the whole universe, sort of a Thanos type of threat going on. And it's got a lot of references and
it has a moment where he says Avengers Assemble.
Yeah. It has a Doctors Assemble moment. It has, so I wanted to mention, we'll get into the plot and everything, but do you know the last scene in this show, he talks to the old curator of the museum. Do you remember that? You're thinking, who is this old curator? He must have some importance. Do you guys know who that is?
Well, I picked up his dialogue, of course, says
one of the doctors.
Maybe you've had this face before, where I'm like, right, yes, of course.
That is Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor. Again, the most iconic. The scarf, long coat, floppy hat. He was sort of a bohemian hippie take on the Doctor, and he would go around. And he was the most beloved, certainly, of the old era, 63 to 89.
A tall Bilbo Baggins, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was aware of that vaguely.
And he's still alive now. He's in his 90s. So Tom Baker.
Well, and I also saw a picture of him recently, extremely skinny compared to this performance at the end here, which makes me think that he might be sick or something. I got very worried.
Could be, I mean, he's in his 90s, so
right.
But hopefully he's doing all right.
So there was a world where we would have at least 4 doctors without John Hurt, like if we would have had the 9th Doctor return.
And that's
so
what
it really would
have
been a big deal.
It would have been
to
the
fans.
3 modern doctors teaming up together. Instead, it's like the 2 modern doctors and John Hurt playing a new Doctor we've never heard of before. So it's doesn't have the same impact as Eccleston would have had,
right?
With the 3 doctors, and they've done these Doctor team ups before, like in the old era. Like the first 3 doctors all met in a special once.
Oh, okay.
That's really fun. I really kind of like.
I kind of like that. No,
I
but
think it was like right before the first Doctor died too. It was like, oh,
wow.
we gotta shoot this because he's like real sick or something.
Okay, so it's kind of a Doctor Who tradition. What I did
Yeah.
notice about this broadly is like I see how this could be like someone's Avengers. Like
Yeah.
somebody who's watched all of these series, this feel like I get like that they're doing references even if I'm not getting them.
There's
I'm like
a
I
ton
get
of
why this is a
reoccurring
big deal.
stuff. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
read that the villains of this, the
The
Klaxions,
Zygons.
Zygons, thank you, Jacob.
They're
Mhm.
from
This was
an episode, an earlier
this is
episode.
only the second time they've ever been used. So it
I believe
seems like
so.
there's deep cut references. There's
But
the
this is
little stuff.
Yeah.
it's something Doctor Who does a lot, where they'll bring back an enemy that was in one episode in the 1970s, and they're like, "It's this thing," and they've done it a lot. Like, I mean, the Daleks, the Cybermen; those are kind of the big threats. The
Right.
Master.
Mike likes the Weeping Angels. Those are
Yeah.
Well, that's
cool.
a new creation of the modern era. So that's
really? That's not a rehash.
Ooh,
Wow,
cool.
that's like,
cool.
oh, we're making our own alien.
Fuck
race.
yeah, dude! Those feel super iconic. I love
Yeah,
that.
that's awesome.
They come back a lot. Actually, they're the reason. So the way they write off Amy and Rory in this show is, so if you get touched by one of those angels, they send you back like 80 years in the past, and you can't time travel back to the future for reasons. Like,
okay.
they touch you and you like disappear, but you actually get sent back in the past.
Why do they do that?
There's
What
a
are
reason,
they?
I'm sure. They're
Just
called
a
the
prank.
Weeping
They just think it's funny.
Angels.
Are
Look
they
directly at 'em.
aliens? There's like statues.
Well, they basically eat you in the past, I think, is how it works. I don't remember exactly. It's a little confusing, but
All right. I've
essentially
only seen it once.
the way that Amy and Rory get written off is they get touched by the Weeping Angels. They get sent back to like the 1920s, and they have to live there for the rest of their life
During
the doctor can't
Prohibition?
save them.
Bummer.
Yeah.
What?
That's what.
I don't know. Look,
again, I'm
That
glad
makes me furious.
I'm glad I'm only watching specials. But let me say this:
Yeah.
if there's anything that might convince me to watch more of this show, it's Jenna Coleman as Clara Oswald. I'm like, you know what?
Jenna
You
Coleman.
might have me.
You like her?
There we
Yeah.
absolutely go.
Yeah.
Clara Oswald, the current companion. So after Amy and Rory get wrote off, which is the Matt Smith's first season, they get a new companion, Clara, who also tags. So she's the companion for his next two seasons, and then when he becomes Peter Capaldi, she sticks around for another season as well. So sometimes companions and doctors overlap like that.
Wow,
Okay,
she was
so
there
I
for
have
a
to watch
minute.
3 seasons.
Yeah. And
Noted.
she, not a super successful career outside of Doctor Who so far,
She
but
tried. Yeah.
she's been in some stuff. But she was like Karen Gillan. She was in the MCU at one point. She played in Captain America: The First Avenger. She played Bucky's date when they go to the Stark Expo.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's not a huge
okay.
No,
Exciting.
that's a deep cut. Okay.
And she was calling Matt Smith, and she's like, "You got to join one of these movies."
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was in one scene.
But she hasn't translated too much to like Hollywood or anything. But
Yeah.
we like her, Clara.
She's in the Sandman show where she plays Joanna Constantine, a descendant of John Constantine.
That's
Which is
right.
very weird.
The Sandman, yeah. Yeah, so she's the current companion. She's hanging out. And so just to set up the plot. So basically it's all about, first there's some kind of mystery going on. And we sort of see 3 different timelines where we the way they bring together, obviously, the current Doctor, David Tennant Doctor, and the War Doctor. It's a lot. I don't know if I can explain.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
No, you can't. But there is a moment leading up to this big mystery unveiling that I wanted to ask you about, because we haven't even said the word TARDIS yet. But we're introduced to Claire Oswald. She's a school teacher. It seems like she's no longer traveling with the Doctor, but has some sort of agreement that like what, Jacob? Like once a month or something, they'll go on an adventure or something.
So that's the thing with the Doctor, is his sort of
He's
aloofness. Sometimes he'll just disappear for months at a time, and then sometimes he'll show up and be like, "Let's go on an adventure right now." And so that's kind
Don't
of
I
part
live
of...
with you? Is what I would say.
No,
where
she doesn't.
have you been?
Right.
Yeah.
You're like my whole world. What is this? But
Well, that becomes a problem with some of the companions.
For all of
I
them,
can't
I
keep
would
doing this
imagine.
anymore,
And
because
which
you
I
come
would
into
like
my
to-
life and make it super interesting, and then you go back, and I have to go back to my normal life. Yeah.
I would like to go
Dream
back
Doctor.
to my
I'm telling you, it's toxic.
I would like to go back to my original answer in our last episode where Jacob asked if we would be the companion with the doctor. And I said, yes, I would if I could walk on there and then immediately shoot him in the head and then take the TARDIS and just go on my own because there's no way I will put up with the whims of a madman who's like psychologically torturing me our entire relationship. But hold on. I wanted to ask you, Jacob, because this happens where they come together and he says like, it's date night, baby, or whatever. And she's like, you got it. What are we doing? And he's like, drinks on the moon, like all this stuff, right? And he's about to like gear up his thing. Then a helicopter comes and picks up the TARDIS and takes it to Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
Now, I know that thing looks like a police box, but the joke is he always says bigger on the inside or whatever. Wouldn't it weigh like a zillion pounds?
Probably. I mean, I'm sure there's some in-universe explanation that I don't know.
It's got some antimatter, reverse gravitational.
Reverse the polarities. Well, we're both reversing the polarities, which is double reversing them. And that kind of answer, Mike, you mean?
Yep.
There's a timey-wimey reason. But yeah, it's basically...
Why do you talk like a child?
What do you mean? The whip warmers are counteracting the jibber joops.
Yeah. Well, that's what anytime he flies the TARDIS, he's just pulling random switches and stuff inside there, which is
it looks like if somebody did that to me when I was on like an amusement park ride, I'd be like, all right, you're playing it a little big, buddy. To do it in like a show like this, you're like, you look insane. You basically like play a piano and pull steam powered, switches.
That's part of the charm of the Doctor,
It's just so wacky.
But it's like a pocket dimension. That's why it's bigger on the inside, in case you're wondering. It's a time traveling machine.
Yeah, does a bag of holding weigh a lot?
Yeah, it's a bag of holding. And of course, the reason that it looks like a 1960s police box is that it has a camouflage mechanism that broke and got stuck on that mode, which is why it's always on that mode. He just never fixed it, I guess.
That's right.
In case you're wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like how this show, because I go to Buckingham Palace, like it feels, it's so weirdly, charmingly British. Like the world revolves around England. The aliens are always in England. We have our own
America.
Black Ops.
Let's go to my office, the Tower of London. When that was said in the episode, and literally out loud said to my cat, who I was watching with this, I said, "This is the most British thing we'll ever watch."
Yeah. No, and at the end of all their adventures, they're always drinking tea.
Tradition.
I'm like, bro, this is crazy British.
It's upsetting how British.
It's always meeting the Queen and stuff. But yeah, so this is UNIT. Which is essentially the organization that was created in the 60s to essentially deal with like alien stuff, basically Men in Black, the English.
To deal with Doctor Who, or to deal with alien stuff, and then they happen upon him.
Well, he worked for UNIT for a while. Like he was doing missions for UNIT, and that's a lot of what the third Doctor was doing back in the 70s.
Can I just say, Jacob?
Yeah.
Because we both have an appreciation for it, but now I'm seeing where your side comes in. Rick and Morty, which is about a maniac who thinks he's a god, who needs a companion to feel alive, who sometimes works for the president when his emotional state is sort of like allowing it. The comparison is like
I had to think that
is
an
true.
Influence. And of course, Dan Harmon did a Doctor Who parody in Community, so that makes sense that he would be familiar with Doctor Who.
He's just traumatizing Morty.
Very similar. And a lot of the companions are like, look, I can't do this anymore. Like it's
Stop
a toxic
abusing
relationship.
Me. Yes, you're being toxic.
He makes Q look like harmless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you understand why Q's playing his games. Q's like, I need to feel. The Doctor's like, I've come up with a million scenarios since I've been observing you from your life. Now I'm going to like change who you are. And you'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Stop it.
But the core of the Doctor is that like he did this horrible atrocity in the past to save the universe, but killed billions of people. And ever since then, he's like, has a guilty conscience. Like I'm going to save as many people as I can until I don't feel like this, emptiness inside of me.
So the plot of that, which is the plot of this episode, is summed up in a painting called, and Mike's right, the special words "No More" and "The Fall of Gallifrey
Falls." Yeah,
I'm sorry, Gallifrey Falls. And that's sort of becomes the look into the plot of this episode for him to be like, oh, that's right, this tragedy. Let me remember this. And then this is when we get sort of these parallel stories, Jacob. We've already cut to the War Doctor and seen that he's at a precipice where he needs to make the choice that inspires this. Yeah, horrible decision.
First of all, I want to mention, so he meets the head of unit, Kate Lethbridge Stewart, who is the daughter of a character from the 70s. You might be surprised.
Wow.
Named Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, who was the head of unit in the 70s.
Okay, and she says that.
And I will be Googling a picture of him immediately.
Yeah, she's like, you don't know who you're fucking with. I'm the daughter of Brigadier. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a lot of references that Who fans will pick up on that you guys might not. But
that one flew over my head.
And what's interesting about this character, played by Gemma Redgrave, is that she's a recurring she's met every doctor from like David Tennant to the current doctor in different episodes. She's still reoccurring to this day, even with the current doctor. She's the daughter of this previous character who's gone on adventures with the doctor in the 70s and stuff.
She's his M.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much like that.
Okay.
And the other thing is, the unit is Men in Black Britain style, and was created essentially to deal with the Doctor. They go in. There's this mystery of this painting, right?
Right. She's like, I got a letter from the Queen. Yes. And it's like, no, not Queen Elizabeth this Queen,
First.
Queen Elizabeth the First.
Yes,
yeah,
Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. Oh, what ship to? Not this Queen Elizabeth. It's a very good joke.
And there's this painting, and this is Time Lord art because it's a oil painting or whatever it is in 3D because it's actually a pocket dimension, bigger on the inside, right?
Right.
And so there's this mystery of like, oh, these paintings, someone broke out of these paintings because they're like, you notice how they're all landscapes. They didn't used to be.
Right. Where are the figures that were in these paintings? Right. Yeah. We're already getting.
And the doctor's like, oh, this is interesting. This glass, it's broken from the inside. So something broke out of the paintings.
Right.
And already I see Colin shaking his head.
But as I'm watching, I am laughing and going, yes.
Yes.
It is just hearing you say it that I'm like, good Lord.
It's very silly.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes. It's like almost a movie length.
Yep.
It's seems noticeably higher in budget as well to a lot of Doctor Who episodes. So it really was a big special for them.
That was a real helicopter.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
And just compared to like some of how those David Tennant specials look that we did last year, you can definitely tell. But
yeah, we're getting an invasion plot line. That's one of our subplots is we have the time traveling subplot and the invasion subplot with whatever broke out of the paintings is trying to take over.
So we have current day with the 11th Doctor, current day England. We have the day of, the Time War. He's going to do it with the war.
He's making the decision.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then David Tennant, we also have him back in, not ancient, but whenever, Queen Elizabeth era England. And that's a whole thing.
And then, that's when we get revealed that there's invasions happening.
Right. The Zygons.
It's the Zygons.
But let's talk about the War Doctor, John
Yes,
Hurt.
we have to.
And the other returning, so obviously we had David Tennant returning, very popular actor. We also have our girl, Billie Piper, Rose Tyler, but not playing Rose Tyler, playing the personification of this super weapon called the Moment that is such a great weapon that it developed basically an AI conscience who's represented. She takes the form. She says like, oh, I took a form that I thought would be pleasing to you.
I scanned.
And he's like, I've never met this woman. Or he's like, oh, maybe it's someone from your future or whatever, right? So
right.
So they bring Billie Piper back to play this role where only John Hurt can see her, and she's sort of like his conscience.
It's like you have to convince her that using the weapon is the right choice. Like she's like the safeguard AI, so you have to like pass a psychological exam.
Right. Now, what do you guys think about this? This is sort of the heart of this whole episode is this moral dilemma, right? That John Hurt, the War Doctor, has to go through.
I love Billie Piper. She's an absolute smoke show. And she's a very talented actress. And she's, I guess, my favorite companion. And that she's sort of the, what do we call them? Chavs? What are the sort of low class?
Yeah. She's sort of a working class girl.
Yeah. Oh, you got that.
very popular companion. I mean, her
Yeah.
and David Tennant, they just had insane chemistry. So people were like,
Yes.
"Oh, like this is great," and they
She
had a
was
hard time
around
even.
for
Yeah, well,
Christopher Eccleston, and then he was basically
for
like,
one season.
again, wants
Yeah,
to be out and not
Right.
much chemistry, and then bring along this, a smoke show guy, and yes,
Yeah.
they become basically the number one couple, right?
so much so, like she was so popular that when she left, and the next companion Martha came, she kind of got overshadowed. And I like Martha; I think she's underrated. Um, but it was all like in literally a whole kind of her whole arc is that Martha falls in love with the doctor, but the doctor is like still thinking about Rose this whole time. So
Ooh,
she's like, so she kind of
damn.
got friend zoned by the doctor.
Yeah, these
The
are
doctor
Yeah.
is the
so
audience.
complicated. It's all so messy. Now, I have umbrage with this portrayal. I don't know anything about Bad Wolf or any of the other backstory or any of that stuff. You
That's
can
a
talk
reference
about
to
that in a
Tennant
moment.
stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
It just bugs me that knowing that they have the chemistry that they do and how electric they are, that she can only play with John Hurt.
Yeah, it was an interesting
Yeah.
choice. I mean, they couldn't bring her back as Rose because canonically Rose is stuck in an alternate universe. That's kind of how she got wrote off the show. But she also
Mm-hmm.
has a part human clone of the David Tennant doctor that lives with her, so they're kind of in a relationship
That's
over
not
there.
true.
That's
That is
yeah.
Yes,
not
yes,
No,
true.
that's
because the
true.
doctor, his hand gets cut off, right? And then the hand turns into another doctor, but it's also melded with human DNA, so it's part human, part doctor.
I'm the hand doctor.
So it goes off in an alternate dimension. She
Dr.
has her own
Hand
personal
Who?
doctor that lives with her, and the main doctor is still doing his ventures. Yeah.
Wow, I cannot shake my head more. It's baffling to hear it spoken out
It probably
plainly
it makes more sense when you
in
see it play out.
context, but
It sounds
I
insane
bet
to
it doesn't.
describe. Yeah.
but that's part of the fun of doing this no context because it
Absolutely,
is
yeah.
wild.
That's what I enjoy.
A
Essentially,
Zygon?
she's in a way that she can never return to this universe.
Right.
So they couldn't write Rose Tyler into this episode somehow, but they're like, we do want to bring back Billie Piper because we love her and the fans love her and everything. So let's make her the personification of the moment, the super
The
weapon.
moment.
Right.
Yeah.
The super
Planet
weapon.
Eater, a universe eater, whatever they call it. Yeah. Very
Yep.
cool.
Yeah.
So is he gonna use the weapon or let Zygons be Zygons? Is the question.
Well, let's talk about him for a moment. So John Hurt, who I believe I keep calling William Hurt, and I will be doing that
Yes.
back and forth this
Sure.
entire episode. So get ready for that.
Different
listener.
actor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
An actor I love, Mike. He's from Your Beloved Alien.
That's right.
Gives one of the best performances ever as a guy who's laughing and then suddenly puking his brains up and something's exploding out of his chest.
Classic.
I had the rare opportunity. He did a play the first year I was ever in California in 2012 at the Pasadena Playhouse, a Samuel Beckett play called Crap's Last Recording, I believe. And I did go to it, and it was the best bit of theater work I've ever seen in my life. It's a one-man show, and he was
Whoa.
out of this world incredible.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, he's a great actor. So he's bringing the gravitas to this, like Michael Gambon from the last episode.
Yeah.
But getting John Hurt, it's like, well, we couldn't get Christopher Eccleston. This would have been, great having the three doctors together. Let's get like a really famous,
Get a movie
acclaimed
star.
British actor to be a new doctor, the War Doctor.
Yeah. And,
again, this is sorry.
I was saying we're just kind of goofing about how goofy the show is, but like it's a rite of passage. Like it's an honor to be on Doctor Who as a British actor. Like, and he brings a real gravitas. Like his scenes feel heavy, even if it's a trash can that's the enemy. Like he's
Jacob said
doing great.
the fucking triumvirate. The fucking doing Game of Thrones, doing Harry Potter, doing this.
Yeah.
And I think it really is something where these old actors would say, like, I'm so proud of my CV. Of course, I've done Hamlet at the Globe Theatre. Of course, I was a squid man on, Doctor Who. And then, of course, I did play Zibblezorf the dwarf or whatever in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And, it is this fun thing. And of course, he was Ollivander, the wand guy who shows up in the first one and then the last one. And you're like, Jesus, he's so good.
Yeah. And of course, David Tennant was in Harry Potter.
Yes, as crazy Billy Bones or
Barty
whatever
Crouch.
the fuck his name is.
Yeah,
Barty Crouch Jr.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to like, Patrick Stewart being like, oh, I'm going to be in this Star Trek show, this Shakespearean actor. It's like, oh, you're probably way too good for this like crazy sci-fi show, but it worked. Obviously, it was a huge,
Right. Well,
great
there's
casting. But yeah,
something about it. Like they're British institutions. Like it's almost like
Yes.
sending it up to like this, for Britain.
Yeah.
Like, yo, respect. We made this. Hell yeah. Like I'm down to be on that show.
That is funny
Right.
that you bring up Patrick Stewart, Jacob, because I was thinking while watching this about you loving Life Force, the weird alien British movie that you watched this Halloween. And I was thinking about how that is something that seemed very Doctor Who to me, to be like, they're actually space vampires.
Yeah.
She's naked because it makes sense for space aliens. And you're like, yes,
course.
you've got it, Doctor Who.
Yeah. Directed by
Sure thing.
Toby Hooper.
Patrick Stewart could have done like movie
Just
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
They ever did like
And that
3
Patrick
films.
Stewart role when he plays like the 5th lead in that movie, that's right before I think he joined Next Generation, so he hadn't quite broken out as a star yet.
Right.
Will there be
But he's
space
doing Shakespeare.
vampires?
Hire the Life Force guy, is what someone said. Did you see it?
Yeah.
He's
I think
amazing.
He was
at
in
it.
David Lynch's Dune, and then he was in Life Force, and then he was in TNG, I guess.
Holding that pug as he runs into battle. There's
Yes.
no better moment in cinema history.
Nope. My favorite
Ernie.
British French guy.
Ernie, my friend.
So, the day of the Doctor.
Yes.
So yeah, there's this mystery with the paintings. Then a time portal opens up, a time fissure, I think they call it.
Yeah, just it happens. It happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
When they throw the fez through and she goes, it didn't come out on this end, and they both look at each other like, that's not good.
Yeah,
Well, we
is
had
the
to talk-
fez
yes,
a thing?
when,
Is that a running joke?
yeah.
You know what? When I see a fez, I can't resist it. Like,
That's
is that a
something
thing?
from the Matt Smith era. So every Doctor has like his own catchphrases and like things
And
that he's into.
headgear.
If you notice in the first episode, so the Matt Smith Doctor, his thing is that he wears a bow tie.
Oh yeah,
And he
cool bow
always
tie.
says bow ties are cool. And he's always trying to tell people the bow ties are cool, and they're like, bow ties aren't cool, man.
Mhm.
That's a
David Tennant's
reoccurring
thing is
joke.
that he wears chucks.
Yeah,
and
he
they
wears
have to
shoes.
like
tailors, and they call him.
yeah, they
sand
have to
shoes.
like justify it. He's like, no, they are cool, which now is like such a weird thing to be like, yeah, you
Yeah,
kind of
2008,
started that
yeah.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wore skinny
Chucks with
suits and Chuck
suits.
Taylors.
Yeah.
Matt Smith wears
People get
slightly less
married
skinny
like
suit
that
with like
now.
boots and a
Yeah.
and
And a bow tie.
bow tie.
And a
Because bow ties are
fez.
cool. And his catchphrase, so obviously David Tennant said, Allons-y. Matt
Naturally.
Smith says, Geronimo.
What does Alan Z mean?
It's like French for something. I don't
Okay.
know.
Probably
Geronimo,
Geronimo,
like,
if I had to
Is that a
guess.
wartime phrase from World War II or something? I don't know.
It's
Geronimo.
it's an
like a-
Apache war cry, isn't it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, there
yeah. So he says Geronimo.
you go. Mm-hmm.
He eats fish fingers and custard because that's his first meal that he ate when he
Fish
was
fingers and
when he turned into Matt Smith.
custard.
It's British.
He was
It's very
so
British.
hungry. He lands in this girl's
Yeah,
backyard. That's
garbage
on.
paste.
And he's like, "What do you have
Mhm.
to eat? Fish fingers and custard." Anyway,
Very British.
so, so this time fissure opens up. He throws the fez through to test it, right? And then it lands in David Tennant air. We see, oh, David Tennant is hanging out with the Queen of England for some reason, which we'll get into. But so he's like, okay, I'll jump through. And he lands in the past and he meets David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. And we have the 10th
We'll
and
get
11th
into.
Doctor meeting.
He
Yeah.
just wants to bone her. That's what it is.
Yeah,
That's
he's-
just
But it's
like
all
lit-
because he thinks she's a Zygon, remember? So she's trying
kind
to
of.
he's trying to reveal that she's a Zygon, and
like he really
proposes
wanted to
marriage
marry
to her.
Right.
Keeps
trying-
saying that he's soon to be king of England, which seems to be very exciting for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a whole funny B plot with them where he's trying to find the hidden Zygon because the Zygons are like these aliens that can shapeshift, right?
They're
So they
the
can turn into
scrolls.
something, and they
Yeah,
get their
yeah, yeah.
memories and things like that. So he thinks the queen is the Zygon. Turns out the horse that they were riding is the Zygon. There's a whole funny thing, and then the
Mhm.
Zygon turns into a queen. So now there's two queens, and he has got to figure out which one's the real queen. A lot of shenanigans, and then Matt Smith comes through. There's a lot of quippiness and ribbing, which is real fun.
Yeah.
Checking each
Your
other out.
chin over
comparing-
here. Did you
Sonic
call me
Spin.
Dr. Chin?
Yeah, I've got a chin. They're comparing sonic screwdrivers. Who's this bigger?
Right.
Saying for something.
Yeah.
Of the size
And that stuff's
mouse.
all fun, and I'm sure longtime
Oh,
fans, it's like,
Ooh,
oh,
that is
finally.
skinny. That is proper skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must have.
They had a good time, I'm sure.
No, and it's like
Um,
they're fun scenes, little back and forth between these quirky little guys. You know?
Yeah.
yeah. And then
Oh, I found real quick. I found billing very interesting. Kind of veinless of David Tennant. It goes Matt Smith, David Tennant. He did not get the with or and. The with goes to Rose Tyler, and
Yeah.
then the and goes to, of course, William Hurt.
John Hurt, yeah.
John Hurt.
I'm
And
sorry,
I think
I got you. It's all good.
it's
I'm gonna do it a
with
million more times.
Jenna Coleman and then David Tennant because the current
That's
Doctor
right.
and current companion.
That's
always
right.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry.
But yeah, so they meet up. Then the War Doctor somehow also ends up in the past with David Tennant.
He gets the fez and decides to move forward.
Yeah.
and just meet them all.
He's like out in a shack in the desert. He's about to like set off this bomb that's going to blow up basically a planet, right?
He's in his Ted Kaczynski era, going full Unabomber.
Yeah. And there's this thing that comes up later where she's like, how many children are on the planet Gallifrey right now? Like, how many children are you going to kill? I bet one day you'll count them, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the War Doctor meets these two older versions of himself that are obviously younger actors.
Whammy.
And he sees them. Yeah, he's like, you guys are just silly and you're saying nonsense. I'm like the serious. I got to do some serious shit over here. You're the doctors that can go on because I had to do what I had to do, you know? And the Doctor
Right.
tries to forget. He doesn't even number it in his like iterations. He's like, that part of my life, I'm just not going to even acknowledge because it was so traumatic.
Yeah. And then the Zygon Queen arrests them, so they're stuck in the Tower of London or whatever. They're in jail
the Tower
together.
of London, which becomes where the unit office is. So it's very funny. He writes like a code he scrapes it on the wall, and then it's still there hundreds of years later.
Right, and then eventually they do this. The whole bit is like, all right, if we could do the math for the screwdriver, it'll take 400 years. But like, fuck, we don't have that much time. But then they're like, wait, I already did that, and now we've been doing the math, and it's already done.
Yeah. This is like the quintessential Doctor Who joke to me because it's like he's doing all this super advanced science and stuff to try to open this door, and then when Clara comes, she just opens the door and walks through it, and he's like, wait, how did you do that? It's like it wasn't locked the whole time. So
right,
there's a really simple solution that he didn't even think of because he's thinking on like this higher level the whole time.
It's like an escape room moment we've had a few times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We didn't open the ball
to make sure the door wasn't locked, and you didn't think to try that.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
Oh, read the book, right? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So the three of them are all kind of in prison, and they're having this moral debate because it's like, oh, you're the one that's got to do it. And that's when he does have these philosophical conversations with himself, essentially, three different versions of him. And they're like, he's like, did you ever count the children? And Matt Smith is like, I don't know. I didn't.
No.
David Tennant's like 2.87 billion.
Yeah.
Because even the way that the David Tennant and the Matt Smith look at it differently, right? That event in their past.
He hasn't
behind it. Yeah.
Later, David Tennant will ask him, "What have you been through that you can willingly put this behind you?" Because obviously, David Tennant still has not let it go.
Yeah, he's sort of in denial of it, but he just wants to move on and just not even think about it. And David Tennant's like, no, we have to. It's like really weighing on him.
Yeah. And that shows up in Matt Smith. He's got more whimsy than David Tennant in a way. Yeah. So there's that difference.
It seems so dark. Yeah.
In the David Tennant era, like he goes through some really dark shit that like makes him darker too.
Damn. Trying to bottle up genocide emotion and going through more trauma. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. There's another special in the David Tennant era called The Waters of Mars. That's one of my favorite episodes where he decides to rewrite history in an event that he's not supposed to do because it has like ramifications. He saves this one astronaut on Mars, and then she goes home and kills herself because she's like, you shouldn't have done that. Like you are messing with stuff that you shouldn't be messing with. And so he tries to save this person. He goes through all this shit to like save this person. Then she kills herself. So
damn,
pretty dark. Yeah.
It's not always whimsy. It's not always fish fingers and custard, is it?
Yeah. Right.
Jeez. Okay.
So, what happens?
Well, we're getting the
next?
Zygon invasion. They're trying to figure out, one, why do you do the bomb, and how do we get back to like main Earth? And they're trying to send messages back to modern day because they're dealing with the Zygons invading Unit, right? As the B plot.
And we sort of find the twist is that they've already duplicated Kate Lethbridge Stewart, the head of Unit, so they're already doing that. Jenna Coleman, Clara gets this time travel bracelet thing that's in their vault that they explain that
it's
Captain Jack
code,
Harkness,
right? People.
Oh man, yeah, really quick. They have the super secret, whatever alien artifact room, right? And they're like, oh yeah, we erase everybody's memory every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy's been here for 10 years. And I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. Yeah. Like, what has his 10 years been like when he goes home? Man, I got my first day tomorrow. Yeah.
Some Severance type shit there.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how you come back in time and get the doctors out.
Yeah, and they say, where'd you get this time traveling bracelet from? Yeah. And he's like, oh, that was from Captain Jack Harkness, which is a character from the Tenet era. Who worked for Torchwood. He was in the spin-off Torchwood, which is a division of Unit. So
Gotcha. Another reference.
Of course, played Malcolm Merlin in the Arrowverse, where he was a bad guy in the season of Legends of Tomorrow.
That's right. Sort of got Me Too'd from his days shooting in Doctor Who. So,
specifically? Oh no.
Well, he basically, apparently, he liked to take his junk out behind the scenes as a prank and
oh my gosh,
doing inappropriate stuff in behind the scenes as a prank, I guess. So I don't know all the details of
Good
it.
prank.
Yeah, Louis C.K. Very cool, man.
Which is a shame because he was a fan favorite character in the early era of Doctor Who. But yeah.
What is it with guys named Captain Jack being inappropriate?
Right. And he was a big deal because he was a openly bisexual character in the 2000s. So,
that is a big deal.
Groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking.
So while that's happening, yes, as you said, we get Clara Lethbridge. Say the name again.
Clara, you mean Clara Oswald, companion, or
no?
Kate Lethbridge Stewart.
Kate.
Yes.
I'm not even going to try that one. She's been overtaken. They're assimilating the others. As we said, Clara just jumped through time. I guess mention real quick that character, Miss Lethbridge's assistant, who is just wearing the Doctor Who scarf.
Another reference to the Fourth Doctor. She's wearing the long scarf.
But is there an episode where he's like, and I want you to have this, Davy? Goodbye.
No, it's just a reference. It's just
a reference.
They just found it. Shouldn't he be like, why are you wearing my clothes?
Well, it's not his scarf. It's just a long scarf.
My grandfather, the Fourth Doctor.
It seems like what they're implying is that it's his scarf. But okay.
I don't think it's meant to imply that. It's just a reference.
She just likes scarves.
Yeah. But again, Tom Baker plays the curator, the Fourth Doctor in this. So there's a lot of Fourth Doctor references, and that was the Doctor that Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart primarily dealt with, the third and fourth Doctor.
Oh, you had to deal with that dumbass, the hippie guy.
Yeah,
I'd be so mad about that. I'm a general. Listen to me.
And his thing, he would go around and offer people jelly babies a lot. He'd be like, "Jelly baby." The Fourth Doctor.
Name stuff so horribly over there.
Look, it's a weird place.
It's a weird place.
They've got weird words for things. They drive on the wrong side of the road. We don't like it.
They got a lorry. It's a truck.
Yeah, lorry. They got a loo. They got a flat.
They don't even call chips the right thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm maddest about, Mike.
Right. No, but I like
you're eating fish and chips. You think you're eating some Lay's.
Yeah.
You're eating some French fries, baby.
Yeah, psych. I'm just glad that Doctor Who is extremely invested in the strength of the British Empire, maintaining its importance.
It is a nice change of every all American franchises are generally based in America, where it's our office is in New York or whatever, like the Avengers Tower, right?
Yeah, always.
Here it's England is the center of the world, of course.
We are the ones who get attacked.
Madam, your fish and chips have arrived. I'll take them in my office in the Tower of London.
London.
Yeah.
Is there an episode where Doctor Who goes back in time and creates an anomaly where America is under the metric system?
No, he does go to America sometimes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
He goes to Hollywood in that last one we watched, where he's like, "Let's go to a Hollywood party."
Yeah.
the
That's
Roaring
right.
20s or whatever.
There's a two-parter where there's Daleks in New York that he has to stop the Daleks from taking over New York or whatever. And
All
Andrew
right.
Garfield is in that episode playing an American.
Playing a Dalek.
Yeah.
Exterminate. Like, wow, you're
So
so
good.
good.
But anyway,
we're there. So the Daleks, or not the Daleks, the Zygons, and then the unit people are now found out the plot. They're in the room together, and the lady's like, "I'm going to blow up everything in here. We're all mutually assured destruction." And then the doctors pop in, and they're like, "Negotiate." Good.
Yes. So they activate like the memory thing, so everyone forgets if they're a Zygon or a human. It's like no one knows.
Negotiate in good faith now.
So you don't want to kill each other. So
which again is sort of
stop it.
Yeah, she's willing to use a weapon of mass destruction, so it's sort of a linear thing with the War Doctor's moral dilemma on a smaller scale. Because he's like, you would blow up, all of London to stop the Zygons from taking over Earth. It's like, yeah, I would.
Right.
And Mike,
so that's go ahead.
What do you think of the Zygons' look?
I hate it. I think anatomically, it's like, what do the suckers do? Like, at least in an octopus, they have a function, but what do the ones on your back mean? I don't like it.
I don't know. Again, it's a reference to a one-time alien from the 70s or whatever, right?
They're
that's pretty much what they look like, Jacob.
I think so. I don't really know, to be honest.
Similar. I don't like the close-ups of their mouths that they keep cutting to.
I don't like when they puke.
Oh, yeah. That's
But they're shapeshifters, so they can take over your form, but they have to keep you alive and they keep your memories and stuff.
That's right.
So that's kind of cool, right? So
share an
jealous
inhaler.
Of your sister. Yeah, yes, I hate becoming one of you that has a weakness, he says. That's great.
Yeah. The assistant has asthma.
Oh, I got a diabetic guy. It's like, oh no, I guess you're sick now.
And that sort of plays in with the Queen, Queen Elizabeth I. There's a Zygon that turns into her. They run off. We think at first that it's the Zygon version of her, but then it's revealed that it's actually the real queen, but all the Zygons just assumed that she was the Zygon that won the fight between them. So
right.
And then
anyway,
so
I just want to mention a little bit of quick setup and payoff where, like, Matt Smith in the very beginning of the episode, he goes into the room to be like, get debriefed, and then this guy gets a phone call, and then that's also Matt Smith being like, I know, whatever, just go move this painting so we can get out of it. It's a little bit of like a D&D mirror heist scenario so they can get where they need to be. So that's
he does that fun. A lot, timey-wimey stuff.
Right. That's
true. Timey-wimey. But then we eventually go to Gallifrey and try to find a solution. One thing, John Hurt, he comes out of his police box. He's like, hey, soldier, give me that gun. And it's like, there's war happening. He's like, I'm going to write a graffiti and then leave. Like,
no more.
Spends all that time shooting the words "no more" into the wall. Very kind of silly. But,
Then it cuts to like Commissioner Gordon of the Time Lords, who's like, mission briefing. The doctor's up to his old tricks of shooting a wall.
Exactly.
You're like, okay.
So essentially, the doctor was like training to be a Time Lord or whatever, and then decided he didn't want to like work for the Time Lords, so he escaped and he stole a TARDIS, which are their time traveling machines. He stole one and just left when he was in school. And that's the TARDIS that he still has. And so the people of Gallifrey kind of see him as a rebel and like in a maverick, a wild card.
And what do they do that he does not do? They are more like the TVA opposed to his sort of freelance.
They sort of enforce the rules of time and make sure no one's messing with the timelines and stuff. But they're also, like I said, in this big war with the Daleks, where the Daleks are trying to exterminate them, and they're like, we gotta destroy the Daleks. They're bad.
What do they say the sky trenches are holding?
Yeah.
Well, Mike, and that's when I was like, well, Stephen Moffat is obsessed with stuff in the sky when he's like, of course, the sky
fish in the sky.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, the sky,
I think a trench by definition cannot be in the sky. But
I kept thinking, I was like, it's like clouds that are parted. What are you fucking talking about?
Like,
but they're surrounding the planet and they're going to blow it up, the Daleks.
Yeah.
But I forgot to mention, so like the way they get from the past Queen Elizabeth era to current days, they hide in the painting, the Gallifrey Falls painting, or more, and then emerge out of the painting. It's a big thing, and then
they have them transfer it into the black site or whatever.
Archive. Yeah,
that's the phone call thing.
Yeah. So then they force them to negotiate. All right, let's go to Gallifrey. Well, John Hurt has to go there because he's got to do this alone, right? I'm going to go do the moment and blow everything up.
Unless it's
yeah.
not there. And now the technology of the painting. What if we pocket dimension? Do we have enough power? And they come up with this plan.
The three of us do.
Well, first,
three.
I was gonna say they show
12.
up. And they're like, the other two doctors show up, right? And they're like, we're not going to let you do this alone. Like, you had to do it alone the first time. This time we do it together. And then they start talking about it, like, wait a minute, is there another way? Oh yeah, maybe there is.
And basically come up with the most childish thing I've ever heard of, which is if we make the planet disappear, since it's surrounded by guns, those guns will just shoot themselves.
That makes perfect sense if you think.
Well, yeah. I mean, in like the most basic term, that is, I guess, what would occur. Yes.
So their idea is to put all of the whole planet of Gallifrey into a pocket dimension where they're stuck in a moment of time.
Yeah.
Like the Time Lord art, which is a pocket dimension stopped in a moment of time, right? Because they don't want to destroy Gallifrey, but they need to stop this war or it's going to destroy the universe. They're like, let's put this whole planet, stop it in a moment of time. All the Daleks that are surrounding the planet will shoot at the same time.
Crossfire themselves.
And then they all blow each other up. Makes
perfect plan.
It's, it's this great, of course, moral quandary, because that seems to be what most of these episodes are about, of yes, they won't be destroyed, but unfortunately we will be, taking time from everyone, sticking them in this sort of purgatory or whatever. And later,
basically,
John Hurt gives the best line when he says, like, did we do the right thing for the wrong reason or the wrong thing for the right reason or whatever?
Yeah. And that's what the Doctor has to do a lot. But the Time Lords are like, wait, don't do that. Like, we don't want to be stuck in a moment of time. And the Doctor's like, well, it's better than dying, though. So,
genocide.
Got to do it.
They're like, children.
Are you threatening me? Like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Right. And so they contact the High Council or whatever, right? And he's like, oh no, there's 3 of them. That's 3 times as bad.
My worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And they're like, more than 3. And then we have a cameo.
I wasn't expecting this. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the Doctors Assemble moment, right?
On your left, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Zori, you made it.
Yes.
What do they say when the
Zori, you made
Star Wars people show up? Like,
I believe Babu Frick says Yahoo or something.
No, it's Zori, you made it. It's correct.
Yeah. So we get all the earlier iterations of the Doctor, mostly just footage from. Well, I think all actually footage just from their seasons and stuff. Even the Christopher Eccleston's like
this,
that's just a shot from the Christopher.
A lot of it's like on a monitor,
season,
like as if we're getting the transmission of the Doctors here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see all their different TARDISes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then not only they say, oh no, all 12 of them, or all 11 of them, right? Or no, it's all 12 of them. And then a voice comes and said, no, sir, all 13. And we see it was actually the 12th Doctor because it's the War Doctor, which is an uncounted number. So there's 13. But the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi, and this is the first time you see the next Doctor, because by this time he was already cast. Matt Smith was about to leave the show, so they knew he was going to. So this is his first appearance as the 12th Doctor. And so he's from the future. So it's like, oh, he can come from the future or the past.
And clearly
that's cool.
Takes whatever lesson from this of the interaction with the War Doctor to become this much more wizened, older character, I guess, right? And I would assume Peter Capaldi's much darker as well.
More matured.
Yeah, his season is definitely darker. I mean, it's a lot of it's dark, but so we get Peter Capaldi cameo, which was super cool. And
I hadn't realized that they disappear. All the Doctors work together and they flib-florb their Jim Jams at the same time, and the planet gets pocket dimensions.
They're like, the calculations to make a whole planet stick it in a pocket dimension would be impossible for one person. What about 12 or 13 people?
Yes. And we've already walked through this with the math problem earlier too. Oh, we'll already have started calculating whatever. So
right.
My question is, once you get the crossfire and all the Daleks are gone, just take it out of the pocket dimension.
No, just because you can't trust the Time Lords not to start another time war, because they're very warlike people. That's kind of why he breaks away from them, because they're like very like we're the guardians of time. We have to destroy anyone who's like messing with time or whatever. So he's like, I didn't fall into like their dogmatic like worldview, so I wanted to go do my own thing. And he's very nonviolent. He's like a pacifist, basically, right? That's why he doesn't have a gun or anything. His sonic screwdriver that even the war doctor says, like, why are you pointing those things like they're guns? Those are screwdrivers. They're tools.
Okay.
So he always avoids violence if he can. He hates guns, hates militaries and all that stuff. So
okay, so he just uses the gun as a pen. I get it.
Right. It's
no. But like, what about the argument for the kids? Like, they don't get to grow up and have their own ideas. Like, I don't know. I know the system might be bad.
Better than dying. Yeah.
Okay. I would have returned the planet, said, your enemies are gone. If you misbehave, you're going back in the pocket. Don't make me put you back in the pocket.
The whole point is that it's not on me anymore. And that's kind of, what you just highlighted there, Mike, this sort of choice to correct the darkest point of a person's backstory and characterization. I kind of don't love to see that retconning to sort of make it like, and it turned out it was okay and he never had to worry about any of it.
Yeah.
He's actually the best
it
guy
is a
you could ever
retcon
know.
of what they established, and a big part of the early seasons of Doctor Who was him dealing with the how the guilt of what he did.
Right.
So that's why they're like, and you guys won't remember this at all. So you'll still think that you did it. Right. So that's why he still has the guilt with him.
But I won't, Matt Smith, and we'll sort of close this chapter on me as a character with this, which again is growth, but I just hate to see it from a standpoint of retcon. I just think that's lazy.
Yeah, but it's again, because he's a time traveler, he can rewrite his past or whoever's past if he wants to. So it's easy to retcon things. But this is
on brand, I guess.
Yeah, not do that.
And this episode sort of was a part of a loose trilogy. It's the middle part because there's the name of the Doctor, which is the season finale of that season. Then there's the Day of the Doctor. Then there's the Time of the Doctor, which is the Christmas special and the last Matt Smith episode. And on the episode before this, he visited Trenzalore, which is the planet that he's going to die on, right? And that's what he's talking about at the end of this episode.
That's right. I saw, your grave or whatever on Trenzalore.
And so he's part of this whole mystery where he's trying to find out the answer to the question. The question obviously was Doctor Who, and the answer is his true name, which is a secret, and all this stuff.
But do you learn it in the name of the Doctor? Does he say out loud, Kevin? And you're like,
Moonchild, a little never-ending story.
I forget even what it was. I think you don't really get a clear answer, but it's more mysteries, right? But in the next one, he goes approach. He goes to this town called Christmas in the next episode, and he's like defending it from. Oh, the question was asked by the Time Lords from their pocket dimension because they escaped from their pocket dimension later.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, that's that answers my question.
Mike, so just it's an equation. It looks like fucking Elon Musk kid.
Oh, geez.
Right.
That makes sense.
But watch Everything the Time of the Doctor after this, and let me know what you think of it if you want to. Which is the next episode. But and then he has this awesome scene. Well, they say their goodbyes to each other, the three doctors.
Not before we've had our tea, because we're British after all.
Yeah.
Little post-game tea.
And I just love all this dialogue between the doctors. Like, I think they did a really good job with it.
Well, and to play against the last episode we watched, and to compliment what Mike was saying about Jenna Coleman, William, gee, I did it again. John Hurt's conversations with Clara and being like, I can't wait to grow up to be a human like you, Clara, not saying the other two, and they have to go like, oh boy. It is. It does make her seem special and fun, and it is good having her on the adventure. So.
It sort of gives her agency because she was the one that sort of talked to the war doctor. It was like, well, you can still change your mind, kind of.
I can see how sad you are in your eyes.
Yeah,
like,
right. Like what? Every time I see Matt Smith, I see how sad he is, and it sucks. Like I get it. Yeah, that's true.
And again, there's some references with Billie Piper where he calls her like Bad Wolf Girl, right? Because she called herself Bad Wolf earlier, and then the David Tennant Doctor's like, wait, did you say Bad Wolf? Because
what is that? What does that mean?
Oh man!
So it's complicated.
Never mind.
I will explain it, but basically, Rose Tyler at one point looks into the heart of the TARDIS, which no human is supposed to do because it's like looking into the Ark of the Covenant or whatever. You'll just melt. But she briefly turns into a godlike, superpowered figure called Bad Wolf, who kind of saves the day, and then she turns back into a human.
Okay.
But
So
per the Three Little Pigs, like it means like
well,
the
Bad
big
Wolf
bad
was this
wolf.
lead up to where they're building up to this finale in that season, and you basically in a lot of earlier episodes you would just see the words "Bad Wolf" everywhere, and it was just kind of reoccurring wherever the Doctor went, and it was sort of this Easter egg of like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And it was leading up to this. So
What does it mean? I don't.
It's a little Dark Phoenix
it's hard
vibes
to
to me, I
explain.
guess.
Yeah, it really is. That's
Yeah.
You just had to
She
watch those
became
episodes.
the bad
You had to be
wolf.
there. You just had to be there, buddy.
Yeah, I
But
guess
saying
so.
the words "Bad Wolf," the 10th Doctor is like, "Oh,
You're
Bad
me.
Wolf, Rose Tyler, the love of my life." And there's that shot where she appears like over his shoulder, and then it cuts back, and it cuts away, and it cuts back, and then she's gone.
Right.
So it's kind of a reference to that.
Okay.
Cool.
Again,
Okay.
it's a lot like the MCU, where there's a lot of references and stuff that like a normie could watch it and be like, I didn't understand any of that, but then someone who's seen all the movies would be like, oh, that's a reference to that, blah blah blah. It's very similar to that, where the Whovians, they know,
Right. The hooligans.
the
I
hooligans.
generally liked both the episodes you had us watch. I'm glad that we do this tradition. I liked the Christmas one a little more. This one was just a little overwhelming for me as a more normie towards this property. And
Yeah, and again, if you thought
Yeah.
this was overwhelming, the next one, The Time of the Doctor, would be super confusing to you probably. But yeah, I like this one a lot. I wanted to talk about the last scene too. So they
That's right.
all go their separate ways. Matt Smith's like, I need a moment in here with my paintings. He's like, I could be the curator of this place. I could just settle down and curate this museum. And then a man comes in and says, "Oh, I bet you could."
Maybe
And
you
they-
already
I'm the
have, or are
curator.
doing it right
I'm
now.
you. You're
And they have
me.
Yeah, and they have a nice little conversation, and then it's sort of setting up the next episode where he's like, "What am I supposed to do now? Go to Trenzalore where I'm buried and stuff?" And they're like, "Yeah, maybe." So, just another fun Easter egg. Tom Baker. I mean, even in that one scene, I was like, "I'm super compelled by this guy." Like, I think I can see why
He
he's
has crazy eyes.
yeah.
He's got like a Willy
So-
Wonka energy in those eyes.
Yeah.
That's good. He
Yeah.
does.
So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I think the Christmas Carol works better as a standalone episode.
Mhm.
And this one obviously it wasn't Christmassy or anything, but the next episode is pretty Christmassy. He's defending a town called Christmas. So,
Oh, yeah.
but this one, yeah, it's a huge like it's basically a movie, and it's
Mhm.
I just really like it. There's a lot of fun scenes and interactions between the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor and everything. So that's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Definitely the strength.
Yeah.
Yep. And I see it, like I said earlier, if you're a fan of this series, like that's got to be your fish fingers and custard. Like that's what you're here
Yeah.
for. You're all about
It
it.
is, it's the Star Trek Generations where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Picard and Kirk are meeting. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's a lot like that.
And to introduce the next Doctor through this, I hadn't known that that's what they did. That's kind of clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and both of these episodes have the message of don't do mass murder,
Yeah.
right?
Basically,
Yeah,
like he's
I like
always
that.
having moral dilemmas. So it's always these tough moral dilemmas, but with a sort of a whimsical thing over it. So it's like on a deeper level, it is sort of these tough dilemmas, but it's also got this whimsical and fun side to it. And the tone, that's kind of the tone of Doctor Who. It bounces around between dark and light a lot, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, do we want to go talk our final thoughts on both of these episodes? And
Let's do
yeah,
it.
let's get into that pocket dimension.
Geronimo!
Geronimo.
Alonzi. And we're back here on Normies Like Us. We're stepping out of the TARDIS, or stepping back into the TARDIS as we're about to leave this dimension to go forward or
on the
backwards in time. We're
Yeah.
talking Doctor
gonna-
Who, a couple of the Christmas specials.
I
Or a
think we're
couple
going
of just
forward
the
in time because we'll see you guys next year, technically.
That's right.
Right.
Well,
But,
we have
Jacob-
also we didn't mention the big twist of the painting. Is it called No More or is it called Gallifrey Falls? And then the curator in that cryptic conversation, he's like, no, you see, it's really called Gallifrey Falls no more.
Yeah, and I thought,
So-
silly,
Yeah.
like simple but cute. Like, okay,
I didn't
that's
see it
fun.
coming.
I didn't see it
Yeah.
I liked
coming,
it.
so yeah, good work.
And like that's another reoccurring thing of like wordplay and stuff like that happens a lot where it's like again this overarching plot of the question, which is a big part of Matt Smith's arc. What
Mhm.
is the question? What is the question? Oh, the question is actually Doctor Who, the title of the show. And then there's this whole
Mhm.
mystery of who is River Song, blah blah blah.
Pond.
Yeah, turns
Yeah.
out she's Amy Pond's daughter. It's very convoluted, but it's cool. I mean, you
Yeah.
really have to see these episodes to like understand it. It sounds like insanity trying to explain it, but it
Does.
makes more sense when you see it in context, I guess.
I mean, it just sometimes it just has a little more whimsy and strangeness to it than like 'cause
Yeah.
I'm sure describing a Star Trek plot points to somebody too would be equally
It does
weird
sound insane,
and
but
foreign.
it's Star Trek is more hard sci-fi than this. Like this, they can kind of explain anything. Oh, like a timey-wimey thing happened, and so it's a little
Yeah.
more loose with the sci-fi. Like it is
It's-
sci-fi, but they can kind of explain it anything they need to explain.
It's
Yeah.
not one of the least normie things we've ever covered, in that it's not inscrutable, but it is extremely dense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is sort of a nerdy thing. Like it's less normie, more niche. I mean, it's not super niche because it does have a pretty
Just
big
close.
following, but
Yeah.
it's
It's very
to
popular.
to really be a diehard fan, you have to know all this lore that I can't even keep straight. And again, it's changing every era. They want to put their own stamp on the franchise, so they're constantly rewriting stuff and adding new elements into his life or her life with the 13th Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it just gets so convoluted. But it's like it's like Star Trek if the captain was the same character but just different iterations somehow, but all
Mm-hmm.
had a linked past, so it gets very confusing.
Right. You think
Yeah,
there's
Kirk
more?
was a trill.
Yeah. We just keep on
Yeah.
swapping that parasite or that.
Kirk
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
I think there's more Star Trek series or Doctor Who series.
Oh,
Randomly.
there has to be more.
Of all the Star
Star
Treks added
Trek.
together, I don't know
Yeah.
because Doctor Who, there's a lot of. I mean, the old seasons, there was a
Well, we're
lot
into
of
15.
seasons.
The
Yeah.
radio.
I mean, it was
But-
on continuously from 63 to 89, and
That's
then
better
it's been
than
on.
Star Trek, the original series did. They only got 3 years.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
but it's like if
That
you
says
combine
something.
like if you combine the original series with Next Generation, but there was a huge gap in between them, obviously. And
It says
then
there's like 12 main Star Trek series and 4 side things, I guess, with the cartoons. But so like with 15 Doctors, it looks like, that's kind of what feels like the comp to me. So I was curious.
yeah, absolutely.
Q, I think it's definitely inspired by Doctor Who.
Mhm.
As this
Mhm.
omniscient goofster,
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what inspires it, because I know you are a fan of his literary work, Jacob. I think a lot about Douglas Adams and all the Hitchhiker Guide
Yes.
books in particular, and reading
Love
through
'em.
those as a kid and loving them. Those were so much more absurd. This show is more whimsical, which is
Yeah.
my hard buy-in for it, unfortunately. But I do enjoy
It is.
that I see.
It can be very whimsical, and again, the tone shifts even in with different eras. Some eras are more whimsical, some eras are more darker, some eras have better writing than others. Like that's kind of the problem with the Jodie Whittaker era is that some people didn't like her because of
Right.
she's a woman,
His
and those
vagina.
people we don't like. But a lot of people didn't like her era because the writing quality went down. There's a different showrunner, and they didn't like the direction the show was going. And now we have the 15th Doctor and Ncuti Gatwa. His first season met some mixed reception as well with the quality of the writing and stuff, and just trying different things that maybe didn't work or fans didn't like as much.
Now, that first season had Russell Davies, or this new one coming
Yeah.
up will be his return? Oh, okay.
He returned with there was 3 specials that came out last year featuring David Tennant, who became a new character, the 14th Doctor, because he regenerated. Jodie Whittaker turns into him. It's a big mystery. Like, why do I have this face again?
That's right.
And then in the 3rd special, the one with Neil Patrick Harris, he turns into Ncuti Gatwa, but he actually he kind of splits in half. And so the David Tennant 14th Doctor still exists, but he's like, I'm going to go live with Donna, my other companion, and just kind of retire from being the Doctor, and settle
The
down.
clone of me is living with another one of my companions.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so Chudy then is the 15th?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And he's like,
Okay.
I'm going to take over as the main Doctor and go on adventures and stuff. And so he had a different companion in his first season. I think the companion from the first season is leaving, and there's a new companion for the next season. I haven't caught up, so I haven't even seen those episodes yet.
Would it also be a first time in that? Does he also play it? Is he a queer character?
Yeah, I think they're doing more with his sexuality in that way, but he's sort of, I almost think of the Doctor as asexual in that he sometimes develops attractions with his companions or something. So he's not maybe aromantic, but he never goes. I mean, other than like I guess he got married to the Queen in this episode, but
right.
Generally he avoids relationships with humans. Yeah,
I guess so.
He just
and also
wanted to be
because
king.
Seems like they had sex. Like I don't know.
They were making out a lot.
They were making out, and that's when John Hurt's like, "Oh, does this sort of thing happen a lot?" And then Matt Smith's like, "It does seem to start happening, yes." But generally, he doesn't try to have relationships with humans because they're also mortal and he's immortal, and it's sort of I would have to watch you age while I stay the same kind of thing.
That's one of my rules, but I'll change your history and fuck with you. That means nothing.
Yeah.
No, I'm principled. Okay, don't get me wrong. But
man's got to have a code.
I like dropping in on this weird little universe. I like just seeing how unapologetically British it is. That's very charming to me. Just like so much pride in the old UK. That's very funny because all of our shows are USA based. So it's just interesting to see that different perspective.
Yeah, and in the context of like current day England, which is like used to be this empire that conquered like most of the world and was like the power in the world for like hundreds of years, and is now like a dying version of its former self, where it's just a small island. All its former imperial places have declared independence and all this stuff, so it's lost virtually all of its power in the world. It's just this it's still clinging to its history.
Right. And everyone's very upset at the museum now on the internet because like you have a bunch of stolen stuff, but that's every museum. But it's just, it's a different
number one.
Yeah, just to see that much like hell yeah Britain energy coming out of a show is very entertaining to me.
I love that. So
I love it.
I know you said you're not that you've like lost track of it, Jacob, but just that you're so behind. Did this inspire you to check out the new one at all?
Yeah, what happened was I started watching, I watched all the Matt Smith era. I was super on it through, Eccleston, Tennant, Matt Smith. I was just watching. I was like, okay, a lot of that stuff I'd seen already, but a lot of the Matt Smith was new to me. And then I started watching Peter Capaldi, and then I just sort of fell off and started watching different things and just I'm still planning to go back to it, but I haven't seen an episode in a while. So I need to get back on that.
You said, didn't you say that you refuse to be infected by the woke mind virus?
Yes, as they say, Doctor
That's an alien, actually.
Woke.
It turns out it wasn't the woke mind virus; it was the woke alien virus. Yes, we know.
So unfortunately, there is that contingent that hates everything that you would think they would hate, like Star Wars and all this. The MCU,
but it turned
and
into a lady, and then you said no more. That's an interesting
no
timing.
More. There is a certain contingent of people like, man, it's a real shame that Doctor Who ended with Peter Capaldi. But we don't like those people. We don't agree with them.
Of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
so
interesting
I will
the
catch
studio.
Up. That's my goal.
Right. No, that's. I was just saying in the backlash of the Jodie thing, like just make her David Tennant then. Like that's a weird move.
It was sort of like
creatively.
You guys like this David Tennant. I mean, yeah, he has come back the most, but really he only came back for this episode and the 3 specials. So those are the 2 times he came back. And so they always have that ace in their whole pocket, whatever that they
that's
can go
why
back
they
to.
Kept him alive. Like you're doing your own thing, just in case we need you.
Maybe this will get me to redo Purple Man. Just talk about a fucking great character and watch Jessica Jones.
Talk about the MCU.
Mm.
David Tennant has been in it as well. So, and Peter Capaldi obviously is in the DC universe in your favorite movie, The Suicide Squad.
Oh, I always forget. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the biggest part, but yes, it is.
No.
Yeah.
Technically.
But I'm excited. Yeah, I've been watching some of the Peter Capaldi era, and I do like him enough. He's an older Scottish man doing his actual Scottish accent, unlike David Tennant, who did a more traditional British accent as the Doctor. So it proves that the Doctor can be Scottish. So not only can he be a woman or a person of color, they can also be Scottish.
You can even be a Scot. That's the progress we're making. It's incredible.
Not an American though. I don't think there'll ever be an American Doctor here. That would be too far.
Well, you can't do an American James Bond, I guess, either. So
it's the same sort of thing where James Bond, they're like, oh, what if there was a woman James Bond? Or what if Idris Elba played James Bond, which I would like if it was like 10 years ago, but he's probably too old now. But
I think there is some fact that every single James Bond has been different. There's been an Australian, an Irish, a Welsh,
a Scot,
Sean
Connery.
Yeah.
True, yeah. I don't know. But
but it's sort of, I guess, the same thing with James Bond, where they're having trouble. Like, what do we do now? Daniel Craig was so popular.
Right.
Where are we going to go from here? That's kind of what they had with the David Tennant, where they're like, where do we go from here? And then
well, what if James Bond wore Chuck Taylors?
Yeah, hey.
Something to consider.
Yeah. Well, what's the British equivalent of a shoe brand?
Not
sure.
I don't even know. But yeah, I love these two of my favorite episodes, honestly. And I think The Day of the Doctor probably works more if you understand the context of a lot of things, but it really is the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame of this show in a lot of ways. So
it felt like it was treated with a lot of love and reverence for the source material, even if I didn't get all of it. Like, it felt like this is exactly what fans would have wanted, and why it's probably one of your first episodes. Like, they definitely seems to be nailed it more or less from what I can tell.
And they've got that great moral quandary. What is genocide bad? I don't know. What to think about that one.
That's right. A lot.
Yeah. So that's Doctor Who, 2 specials.
Yeah, happy hula days, everybody. Be sure to praise the Christmas shark for now and forever.
Hula days.
Ho, 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 more like hoo.
Ha,
sing your
I like
Christmas
that.
carols.
That's the question.
Like that. Yeah.
You got to sing your Christmas sharks to sleep.
Yeah.
So thank you for indulging me and watching these episodes. I like doing this last year and this year, so it's a fun thing to do.
Now, the listeners know that they're going to have to indulge us, as next week we are taking a holiday break.
We're time traveling. We're going to be back in the future.
That's right.
Right. Well, I was going to, we'll have to talk about this because we have the Apes episode. So we'll have to figure out when we're going to do that, whether that's going to be next week or the week after.
Okay.
But, that's right. We will be coming up with a break here soon for the holiday season.
Yes, but
I'll use the sonic screwdriver to have us have already recorded it at some point.
Yeah.
And it's ready to go now. There we go.
But the next episode that's released will be
300 years to record an Apes episode.
That's right.
The Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
That's right.
Dawn of the Doctor. This is my other favorite episode. You got Day of the Doctor, Dawn of the Doctor.
In the name of the Caesar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Dawn. Let's dawn it up. Well, maybe it'll be the dawn after Christmas or the dawn of the new year, but we'll be getting that to you guys.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
But a continued happy holidays to everyone. We hope you're safe. We hope you're excited for the new year. We all know that this last one was kind of a bummer. On to bigger and better things.
I'm sure next year will be much better. Nothing bad's going to happen.
We said bigger and better podcasts. Get ready to listen to a fun new year. We're going to wrap up Apes soon, and then we're going to start talking about what our next long form is. We've got a million other topics that we're kind of behind on. I'll go ahead and throw it out there. I guarantee at some point we'll maybe do a double episode, a Craven / Venom episode. I don't know.
Dance.
Well, did you hear? I guess this is the last of the Sony universe.
It's over, my friend.
It's finally dead.
It's over.
Yeah.
Venom got 3 movies. Yeah. Congratulations.
Craven got half of one.
Yeah. Oh man.
So maybe at some point. And just all sorts of other fun stuff. And of course, you can always hit us up at Normies_like_us, where you can tell us things like, well, I want to see you cover this in the new year, or I like when you did this last year. We experimented. I'm kind of treating this like our Normie New Year's episode and wrap up. Obviously, we've got one of those coming soon, but this was an interesting year for us where we became more gimmick focused on episodes. We started doing our drafts more, just cool segments. So if you want to see more stuff like that, let us know that too.
I'll tell you right now, probably a January episode will be our top 10 movies that we've done the last couple years in January. So I'm sure we'll be doing that again.
Yeah.
Cool. No, looking forward to it. This has been fun. Who knew? Look at us.
Who knew?
Yeah. Who knew year? I don't know.
Doctor Who knew.
Doctor Who knew. The ultimate question.
He always knew
his name, remember? Yeah.
Now we're getting in the spirit of it. Man.
Yeah. But we've been your doctors.
Yeah. Yes. This is the 400th Doctor, Dr. Colin.
It's the 69th Doctor.
This is the 420th Doctor.
I was gonna say.
Hell yeah, dude. All right. Well, Expelliarmus and all that. Yep.
Tally ho.
Cowabunga.
Yeah. Cowabunga.
What's just something British to sign off with?
Gabagool.
So long, you Yankees.
Oh, toss off.
Yankees.
Yeah.
Toss off, you gobbers.
Tossa.